What is up, guys? Welcome to episode 20 of the Sports Clichés podcast. I'm Craig. That's Jay. We are talking about the NFL draft coming up in 1 day's time, 24-ish hours from when this is happening. The draft will be happening. Tap, you excited?
I mean, it's draft time. It's time to get back some true football. USFL for about a weekend held some attention. Completely forgot about it last weekend, so it's already fallen off of my radar. Good to have the draft around. See what kind of talent we got coming across. See what kind of shenanigans we get in. Um, I will preface this. It's a this one's. I think there's been as hard as it is to pick draft picks, and I've never actually done a mock draft before myself, so this is quite a challenge.
Yeah.
I feel like this year is even trickier than most, and it's already a tough thing. I think there's a lot of pieces as far as what players are actually kind of rising and falling, that sort of thing. The everything from your Kenny Pickett hand sagas to even the top guys, even like your Walkers and your Hutchinsons,
Yeah.
all of a sudden rumors and like uh, the front office for the Jaguars having two different fields from it, so they're throwing out the curveballs there.
Yeah.
Obviously, Niners fan here. We got the Debo trade talks. So, and all these guys, we have so many teams with multiple picks in the first round. They're rumored to be either trying to move out or people trying to move in, try to get to the first round, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of things that could start going a little differently than how we even might project them here. But we're going to try to pick them straight up right here based on where everybody is slotted in currently. And so, yeah, we'll kind of go down pick by pick. I think uh, think it's gonna be fun. Kind of trying to see if we could think what these GMs are thinking. Anyways,
That's just it, right? There's the scary thing for me in this draft is you look at some of the top teams, like the Jaguars are known for just what the hell are you doing in the draft? The Texans are known for what the hell are you doing in the draft? The Jets have freaking two picks in the top 10. There's no way they're not going to bungle one of those, right? Like it's
yeah.
it's very difficult to look at some of these top 10 teams and going, "Oh man, you guys are very used to screwing up draft picks, huh?" The other thing with this draft is there's no true number one, right? There's no Trevor Lawrence this year, who it's like, okay, the draft really starts at number two, right? Jacksonville could go any number of ways with the number one pick, and that changes the way everything happens behind them. So that's what makes, I think, this draft more so than most a lot harder to pick.
Yeah, I could, I'm thinking it's, uh, you got to be expecting one of these guys because you got the Jets up there, you got the Giants with 5 and 7, so you're wondering if they're gonna do really something with both those picks. Even teams like New Orleans, who are in this very interesting position of having 16 and 19, you just wonder what
Yeah.
the hell they're gonna do with that. That's a very like I feel like obviously top picks are gonna yield some pretty good return, but this is a draft in which, like you said, there's no super clear cut top guys that you might be going after. So even a pick like middle of the road first round pick like that, New Orleans could be getting some pretty good offers. If a guy's still on the board there at 16, which they could easily fall in this draft, they might get a great return on a mid round first round pick there. So very interesting. And then obviously the quarterbacks. That's been the big, how many quarterbacks are going to go? How early are they going to go? Is this going to be a situation? Are we going to just actually not see a quarterback for maybe half plus of this draft or this first round, I should say? A lot of question marks as far as that's concerned. So it's I think there is. I think there are actually there for me. There are absolutely a group of your top players. Like I see certain names, I'm like, they gotta be going top 10 easy, if not certain guys even top 5. But exactly where are they gonna go? And
Yeah.
are these guys gonna be willing to? Are the teams that are up there willing to trade down? Which I think they're pretty receptive to that. It sounds like from the the early whisperings. But who's gonna be willing to even go up in this draft to get someone like that? How much are you willing to sacrifice for that? Very interesting to see.
Yeah, drafts like this that are deep in a couple of positions and then just very shallow kind of everywhere else, um, you can sometimes see teams really breaking the bank to try to get one of those positions they need, right? Like if you need like an edge rusher or tackle, plentiful in this draft. But if you need, say, a quarterback, or maybe even if you need a running back, right? There's a couple of prime running backs in this draft class, and nobody else who really moves the needle. So does a running back who maybe, if you look at the running back class, none of them grade into the first round per se, does somebody try to take a running back early because there's only really two of them, I think, in my opinion, who move the needle on a team one way or the other. It's things like that in draft classes like this where it's like, okay, you got a couple positions where we're really heavy and there's not much else. So
Right.
if you need one of those other positions, you better be quick on it.
Yeah, I mean, especially, it's all depending on what you're needing too. Obviously, there's when you're talking about the very early pickers of any draft, you're typically, unless they've traded that pick already, this is a team that needs someone to probably come in and play
Yeah.
right away on what is not going to be a good team. That's a tough task for anybody. Obviously, for quarterbacks, you get your Trevor Lawrence situations to where you're just wondering how the hell this guy going to even survive for the next few years, given his situation. But I think you also you have some interesting ones. Teams like a Seattle that hasn't found themselves in a position like this unless it was for some player or something like that to where they kind of found themselves. They're just naturally a number 9 pick now, and so
Yep.
very interesting. Teams that actually have a culture kind of behind them a little bit. Be interesting to see if the you give a lot of credit to how the teams ran, but then when you're in a position like this, you really don't want to miss on one of these early picks. If you're picking in the top 10 and you miss on this, that's gonna be a nice little, that's gonna be a mark on your front office for their entire tenure that they're there. They're just like, oh yeah, but I mean, look at that terrible pick
Yeah.
you had in such and such player, even if it's not your fault. We've been there with your um, just trying to think of some random ones off the top of my head. I mean, obviously the famous one I guess of recently
Ryan
was
Leaf.
Ryan Leaf. I was gonna say Taco Charlton. I don't know
Rocco
if
Charlton.
you saw that
Yeah.
little clip. I am not a Jerry Jones fan. That has been well
Mm-mm.
known. I think he's more of a detriment to that team than anything. But he's a big voice at the table, and it's some real funny shit when he's talking shit about his GMs and stuff and who they picked. But
Yeah.
he's hired them, so it doesn't look so good on you too,
No.
Jerry. I
No.
don't know what the hell you're thinking by. And then you just throw a guy under the bus like that. Taco didn't deserve that shit, but
No.
but anyways,
And
we'll see. We'll see.
the other thing with stuff like that, and you bring up the good point of like that mark on your team. But if you look at a lot of the teams in the top here, there's a reason they're in the top. It's because they misdraft a lot, right? Teams like Jacksonville, Detroit, Houston, the Jets, the Giants. These are all teams at the top of the board, and they're always at the top of the board because they can't quite seem to get those pieces they need. And, it's teams like Seattle, uh, you don't want to be stuck in this zone for a while, right? And the best way to get out of it is to draft well. Get a couple big franchise changing pieces that can then start to move you in the right direction.
It'll be interesting because, like, I would agree for the most part with that. The only thing with Seattle right now is that, I mean, you just lost your
Mhm.
you just lost your quarterback. You just lost the guy that has pretty much represented your franchise. Besides, the Legion of Boom and the 12th man, Russell Wilson is the thing you think about when you think about the Seattle Seahawks. And so, I mean, it will be an interesting draft for them. But yeah, I think uh, for some of these other teams, like, yeah, do you want to be going to Jacksonville? To you know what? I was about to throw Houston out there. We'll see with Houston. Houston is a funny. They are. I would not suggest by any means they are a well run organization as far as their front office is concerned. it's just little pieces here and there that
Yeah,
they seem to find, and I don't know. They're
yeah.
just kind of an intriguing team that won weird games last year. They beat the Colts. They beat the Bills. They beat the
Davis Mills made me
Dolphins, I
eat a
think.
lot of
Like,
shit last year at times, and
yeah.
I don't know. There is something there. Let's put it this way. With Houston, it does feel like there could be the start of something. And yeah, the where they're picking this draft, it could really start to push things forward for them too. Yeah, no, I'll give you Houston on that one. I still stand by what I said about Jacksonville, the Jets, and the Giants,
True. No,
though.
no argument there. So let's just jump right into it. We'll just kind of do this kind of organically. I'm sure other topics will pop up as we're kind of going through our picks here. Um, I will be completely honest. Craig's going to be more of the expert on a lot of these players, these picks than I am, just for lack of knowledge and watching college football. But yeah, I kind of took a look at, obviously took a look at some other mock examples, seeing where guys landed, where they've really been positioned, and also taking a look at these franchises and kind of how their front offices have run their ship. Expectations is a lot of this is going to change as far as the teams and where they're picking and all that stuff. We haven't included any of those trades in here, but that's the expectation. There's going to be a lot of movement, but just seeing as it falls right now with where these guys are picking, try to make our best educated guesses on this one. So without further ado, we go into round one, pick number one, with our back-to-back number one pickers, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Fun stuff as far as, the two guys talked about right now, and I'll let Craig get to it in just a second. But the funny thing, you don't see this right before a draft typically. You got the owner and the GM who are split, and they've publicly been split on who
Yep.
they want to go with first. So who do you think goes first to the Jags here?
To the Jacksonville Jaguars, I have them taking Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan. I do think that's the guy they'll end up going with. I still think the better pick here for them is either Neal or Kwanu. Despite the fact that they tagged Cam Robinson, that offensive line is a mess. They could really use some help there. But ultimately, I think they're just going to go with the guy they think is the best one available, and that's going to be Aiden Hutchinson. Absolute beast of a year last season for Michigan. Looked really dominant at times. Interestingly enough, with Hutchinson, struggled to gain the edge at times against NCAA opponents. Would force his way through the middle because he's just a physical beast. But once he gains those edge moves in the NFL, he's going to be a whole other level. I will say I do have the PFF comparisons for each player that I have picked on here. PFS has his comparison as Kyle Vanden Bosch. That's how good of a prospect this guy is. So I think they'll fall with the guy who looks the best, and that's Aiden Hutchinson.
Fair enough, and I think that's been kind of marked as the guy to go with if there was a number one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna roll with the recent ties that have come along, and I got Trayvon Walker going at number one to the Jags. This has been the big thing this week. All of a sudden, Trayvon Walker all of a sudden is going number one to the Jags, and you hear this dispute. I'm very interested as far as the relationship. Balky has been known to fuck up some drafts. That as formerly watching him botch some Niners drafts in my day. I don't know how much that's going to be a battle as far as what Khan wants and what he wants. I don't know how firm he is in his beliefs in a player like that. But I do think Walker is, obviously I think plenty of talent there. I don't think you're going to really miss too bad with that. And I don't know if you're getting anything general, like, you worry about missing a generational talent, right? If you're perhaps choosing between two guys at the same or a very similar position, both, D linemen here. But yeah, I like the idea, and this will make more sense, I guess, when we go to the next pick. I like the idea of Walker going here initially, anyways. Number one.
It's interesting because you bring up a good point. I don't think either Hutchinson or Trayvon Walker are generational talent, but I do think there is a generational talent in this draft. I really do. But he doesn't go here. I think Aiden Hutchinson, they're just going to make the smart pick. But I don't disagree with Trayvon Walker. Trayvon Walker is fascinating because I've seen him mocked anywhere from 1 to about 27. People aren't 100% sure what Trayvon Walker is yet, and it's wild.
Crazy, yeah, that is quite wild. So that will be something to see if I can't imagine at this point, after kind of the hype that started to gather around him, I couldn't imagine he falls that crazy far.
No,
but
no,
that would
I don't
be
have
that
him
would be a
anywhere
story.
near that kind of fall.
That'd be a hell of a story. So let me get you marked down here. We got Aiden Hutchinson going in Craig's mock here, pick number 1. Detroit Lions lining up, pick number 2. Again, another usually up there, picking in one of those high pick teams here. You got the Michigan guy going number 1. So who do you got going number 2? The Lions.
Well, if he does move past number 1, they'll take Aiden Hutchinson here. I don't think there's any question. The story behind it with Michigan guy going to Detroit, they really could use a great edge rusher. So I don't think they're going to be complaining about that. With him gone, and I'm going to regret not saying the name Kyle Hamilton here. I feel like I'm going to regret that. But with him gone, I think the Detroit Lions take Ike Ekwonu, the tackle from North Carolina State.
Oh,
here's the thing.
Going guard.
I think Detroit could go any number of ways here. But what they did well last year was run the ball. They established a really interesting run game with DeAndre Swift. So I'm thinking, we've got this identity starting to form. Let's add the best run blocker in this class. Ekwonu's far from the most complete tackle in this class, but he is by far the best run blocker in this class. I think you put him out in front, kind of leading DeAndre Swift. You could have a really potent running game starting to begin here. He does need to work on his pass blocking a little bit. He did get beat off the edge a few times, and in the NFL, that's going to burn you. But I think Detroit's going to look at the run blocking potential with their already established run game, and I think they're really going to like the fit of Ike Ekwonu. PFF comparison on him is Kelechi Osemele, by the way. I like the fit in this case. Okay. More than I don't think he's the best player here. I don't even think he's the best player in his position available here. But I think the fit works in this case.
I got Ekwonu fairly high for sure on my end as well. We'll see what that is when we come to it. But because I got Walker going number 1, I do have the story lining up because it is such a good story, and I think this might have sold me more than anything than actually having any real knowledge on who's going to go 1 and 2. I just like the idea of Michigan guy going to the Lions, playing, playing for MCDC there. That's gonna be a lot of fun, I think. Yeah. So I hope that's where they go. I think it would be a great pick. It'd be a great story and that sort of thing. So I think that's what drove me. Obviously, no doubt about it, Hutchinson has been a top of the board guy for a bit now. So him going to 2 wouldn't be the biggest shock if he doesn't go number 1 here. I can't see him really falling. I mean, it would be crazy if he fell.
He's going to.
It'd be crazy if he fell beyond 2. Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah, I'm fully convinced if he doesn't go 1, he goes 2. Mainly because it's Detroit drafting 2. And like I said, it's not like Detroit couldn't use an edge rusher.
Right.
They really struggled to pick up sacks last year. Adding a guy who's got 10 sack year 1 potential certainly doesn't hurt that in any way, shape, or form. So I don't think it's a bad pick. As a matter of fact, like I said, if I didn't have Aiden Hutchinson going 1, I'd have him going 2. But I just like the fit of Ekwonu. I don't know. I'm doing a thing with Detroit in this draft. You'll see what I do with Detroit's second pick. That I'm doing a thing with Detroit.
I mean, the Lions are. I mean, we talked about them more than any 3-4 win team should ever be talked about on a sports podcast that isn't regional to Detroit, basically. Like we up talked Lions way on, but they were an oddly fun team to watch. You were always kind of curious because they had some flat games out of nowhere to where I think generally through the season you actually felt as many losses as they're taking some hard losses, they're taking some close losses, and they seem to be playing for their coach. There seems to still be that, and they didn't get. There was a point where it was looking like they were going to lose every goddamn game, but it definitely, I think it came around, obviously for them, and I think that will be obviously a great story for them going forward. So we move on down the line. This is what do you got for me? What do you got? Houston Texans.
I think we're probably going to have the same pick here. I got the guy who PFF compares to Myles Garrett. I got the guy who I think is the best prospect in this class. I got the guy who I can't imagine the first two teams passed on for some strange reason, but they did. Kayvon Thibodeau goes here. Number 3 to the Houston Texans. Listen, this dude is a physical specimen, right? He ran a 4.58 40, bench 27 reps. He's only 254 pounds. He's a guy who comes into your team day one, puts up 12 sacks in his first season, and only gets better. He's very raw, but he's already, in my opinion, the best prospect in this class. He's not going to get taken early because of some of the concerns that have come out about his play, yada, 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 but there's no way anybody can pass on him for much longer than this. It's got to be Thibodeau here.
We will have a difference. Definitely didn't go here.
Really?
I was not going edge, and not like Houston couldn't use some help on the D line. Based on how I have Walker and Hutchinson, and I feel like if either of those two were on the board, this might be a different story. But I feel like those two go early, and I feel like Thibodeau has a little bit of that question mark to him. Big name, another name that's been kind of coming out in the recent weeks. Honestly, just because he has an awesome first name, nickname that everybody's able to call him by. I got Sauce Gardner. Cornerback out of Cincinnati going to Houston. There has been some rumblings, apparently.
Yeah.
They really like Derek Stingley Jr. From LSU as a cornerback as well. So I could easily see that being Stingley in this position here. I think Sauce has been a little bit of the higher rated prospect, the higher one, and no doubt they need defensive back help. They need someone who's probably has to get in there day one.
Yeah,
I think that's what you get with this guy. I think you get that with Stingley as well. I just feel like Gardner's just a little bit further ahead as far as, on most people's boards. And as much as Houston likes him, you have Gardner out there. I think you take him here at 3.
I can't argue that. I think Sauce Gardner is the best cornerback in this class. He's the first cornerback I have going off the board too. So I have no issue with Sauce Gardner going there. I think he's a very good pick. I can't imagine teams passing on Thibodeau this much. Right? Like there's just too much athletic freak there for me to see him going too far.
Fair enough. Going down into
Surely we have the same pick for the Jets. The Jets need offensive line so badly. Evan Neal from Alabama's got to be the pick here. He's the best tackle all around in this class. He's the best offensive lineman all around in this class. I took Ekwonu before him simply because I like the fit in Detroit. But Evan Neal is the guy who steps in day one and is the best offensive lineman you have. 6'8", 337 pounds, and if you've ever seen the dude without a shirt on, that's a very trim 337 pounds. He can play both sides of the line, did it at Alabama, did it successfully at Alabama. He's got all pro written all over him. Jordan Mailata comparison from PFF. He's an all pro looking guy from day one. I really do like Neal. Oddly enough,
and I guess it's kind of a spoiler for pick number 5. I have him going to a different New York team. I have the Jets taking Derek Stingley Jr. from LSU, cornerback.
Okay.
Jets, there's a lot of pieces to work on. You have a defensive-minded head coach in Bob Saleh, obviously. One of the best D coordinators in the game before he become the head coach right here. And with this pick, I feel like, again, you're getting a guy who's going to be probably thrust in there very early. And yeah, I think there obviously is a need for offensive line for a team like the Jets. I wonder if they feel like it will be as impactful though. I think this is a very, like, this could be a big splash hit for the Jets if Stingley's able to come out and really perform in that position, essentially day one. You probably don't get quite that with someone like an Evan Neal, even though I think maybe long term it's paying dividends to pick up someone like Neal. But I got back-to-back cornerbacks going off the board here in Gardner and Stingley. So yeah, 4 for the Jets. Stingley.
Yeah, the Jets have been looking for their replacement for Darrelle Revis since they lost Darrelle Revis. So I mean, taking Derek Stingley there makes a lot of sense. I can't imagine them leaving Zach Wilson out to dry again next season, right? You invested that high of a pick on your quarterback. I think you gotta give him a chance next season.
You bring up a great point. I feel like I don't want to say they saw like the script that a team like the Bengals put out, but I think we all feel like the Bengals not this past offseason, they upped their offensive line for sure in this past offseason. Prior, though, offseason before, it seemed like they had a lot more they needed to do on that line, and they didn't really do it.
And it went everywhere else first.
But that's a team that wins your AFC championship and represents the AFC in the Super Bowl right now. Maybe not exactly, like you can't rely on that to how it's always going to work out.
Yeah.
But I wonder if they feel like they could fill that line in with, some veteran presence, just another year in the same, scheme and all that.
Push the ball down the road, so to speak.
Yeah, and hope that you could get guys to, gel a little bit more as opposed to having to drop a rookie tackle in there to really kind of be an anchor. That's a tough ask for any rookie.
I will also say before we move on, I do think there is a greater than 0% chance that the Jets not only not make this draft pick, that the Jets don't make any draft picks in the first round.
I mean, they have the ammo that they have at 4 and 10. Obviously, It's been rumored. They're looking at Debo.
He's got the hat.
and that is
AJ Brown obviously would be another one who's been floated around there.
Right. And so the chances, there's big chance that the Jets aren't actually picking at this spot, or 10, or who knows where that all falls, but definitely could be something. I mean, I didn't think about the fact that they could be potentially. I'd figure they'd find a way to get back into the first round somehow, even if it's into a later round, but. Because they have a decent amount of ammunition. Obviously, 4 and 10 right here.
They have a lot of ammunition.
I wonder how that would all shuffle out. I could see them coming back into the fold in a later
potentially.
Later
but what I mean is with their 4 and 10 picks right now, they got 4 and 10. There's a greater than 0 chance they don't pick either of those.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a possibility. Absolutely.
Yeah. I won't say it's like a for sure thing, and that's not me. With I feel like the Jets look at this AFC and what's happened this year and feel like they need to get in on it.
All right. And we'll do this right now because we already touched upon it. And I want to get into this because we're already talking about the Jets and the potential of them trading out this pick. And Debo's the big name out there, obviously.
He is the big fish.
So let me go 5-head, like 300 IQ play right here. This is the super overly optimistic Niners take. You're going to get it right here. From a true homer. Debo, Shanny, Lynch. They've had this thing figured out for weeks. Debo is planning on re-signing, extending his contract. There's some financial things that still probably have to be hashed out, but the plan is he's more or less bullshitting, and he has, like, on his social media, he's putting out all sorts of ambiguous shit, like only me and my owner, only me, my agent, and the Niners know what's going on. All these talking heads, they're putting out all these, like, rumors and that sort of thing. You guys don't know what's going on. He's put out plenty of stuff like that. He's also put out the things contrary to that, to where, you know, those talking heads are putting out that he's out. He's done with the Niners. All this. I feel if there was one thing that was reported, is that Shanahan and Debo have a pretty damn good relationship as far as a player-coach relationship is concerned. Debo's putting this out there as more or less bait, I guess. Not a smoke screen, it wouldn't be the right thing. It's to draw people in, basically. My thought is this. So, Debo puts it out here that he's disgruntled, that he's looking to move on. He wants to be traded off the Niners, and he wants to go to another team. That's going to perk up a lot of ears, obviously. Teams around the league. Debo Samuel's out there. He could potentially be someone we can go out and get now. Absolutely, like, a lot of teams are going to be receptive to that. What does the Niners front office also have been dealing with this entire offseason? Jimmy G. And getting rid of Jimmy G. Here's the long play.
Bringing people to the table?
You bring people in the table. People are calling you up about Debo Samuel 24/7. What can we do to get him in? All right, you hear their offers. And you might hear some pretty good offers. But ultimately, it's still, this thing's drug out. This thing is dragging out into the draft. Everybody's expecting this him to be drafted or traded during the draft. But you get him on the line. You get these other owners on the line, GMs on the line. Maybe you start fishing out there. Maybe, okay, what can we do with, like, a package deal? Maybe Jimmy and Debo. What can we do with that? And then you just cut Debo out of that. You just make it a Jimmy deal all of a sudden. All of a sudden, they got people calling him up. You're like, oh, yeah, no, that's interesting. Okay, yeah, we'll consider that for the Debo Samuel pick. Have you heard about a guy named Jimmy Garoppolo? Yeah, he's been our quarterback for a while. Pretty reliable guy, great veteran, good teammate. Everybody loves him in the locker room. Great veteran presence. Let's work something out for him, actually. We could do something. And then we could talk later about Debo. Like, this is the overly optimistic, not probably realistic by any ways. But this is Debo. This is Debo doing a major homie play. He's making himself look bad. Like, Niners Twitter fan base, oh my god, it's a fucking mess. Like, people are all sorts of, pissed off at that sort of thing. And you might have that. But time heals everything. If Debo just went and signed an extension and played for the team next year and would balling out, everybody would forget all this shit happened. No one would give a damn if he's putting up 1,000 yards plus. He's doing what he can for us. Nobody would care. So that would be washed away. It would get people in the door again for Jimmy G stuff. And, at the end of the day, he's still going to get paid. There you go. There's your overly optimistic Niners take, baby. Yeah, it's probably way off, but it's something that's been stirring. Like, what if Debo's playing the long game on all of us? He's just him and Shanny and Lynch have been cooking this thing up. We're like, hey, the calls for Jimmy have kind of dried up. What can we do about this? Hey, you know what? I'm gonna put some bullshit out on social media saying that I'm not trying to play for you guys anymore. Let's see how many calls you get then.
I love it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's right.
No.
I do think they're going to trade him. But I love the optimism. I will say, by the way, I mentioned there's a greater than 0% chance that the Jets don't make a first-round pick.
Okay.
There's also a greater than 0% chance the Jags don't make that first-round pick. Because I'm thinking the Jags are... Because there's been some rumors that because of the tension in the room, the Jags aren't necessarily committed to making that first overall pick. And, I mean, if your first overall pick is essentially Debo Samuel, I think they'll take it. Um, so that's another potential one. Although I hope it's yours, to be honest with you. That's just so much better. Where he's like, I'll take the bullet here. We're gonna rope in some suckers and we're
Oh
gonna
yeah,
sell them a Jimmy
it would be a
Garoppolo.
rope-a-dope play of the ages, and all of a sudden, yeah. I mean, who would if you're a Niners, if you're like truly a Niners fan, who would be mad at that at the end of the day? If he just ends up re-signing anyways after all this bullshit, but it was all
Here's
bullshit, and I don't
here's
think
the
anybody
crazy
in the
thing too. If you're the Jets, we'll use the Jets as an example.
right.
And you watched Zach Wilson play last year and you went, oh God, this guy is really not ready for NFL snaps yet. Would that not intrigue you a little? Well, no, hold on. Garoppolo gives us a good stopgap to give us another year of development on Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, and I think one thing that folks kind of forgot with Jimmy is that when he was originally drafted out of Northern Illinois, he was actually a decently mobile quarterback. He was drafted in the mindset of being a mobile quarterback, in a sense. Definitely nothing like a Vic or any ridiculous thing like that.
Closer to Josh Allen
But
style,
a guy that
can run
exactly.
But he's not being drafted as a runner like you said, like a Vic was, or later in this draft like a Malik Willis will be.
Right.
But he definitely has some mobility. No doubt about it.
So I think a little bit of a decent comparison to a Zach Wilson. We've seen Wilson has some legs, absolutely. Yeah. I don't think they want him to primarily be a running quarterback by any means. They want him to stand in the pocket, just like Jimmy G. So not a terrible comparison.
Makes sense.
Not a terrible comparison. And going back, Jimmy and Bob getting back together. I think Bob would appreciate at the very least the veteran presence and the camaraderie, I guess, in a way that you get with a guy like Jimmy G. People like him in the locker room for sure. Yeah. His teammates like him in the locker room, regardless of play on the field. I think they just they generally enjoy having the guy around. So it's a good factor to have in there, and it's something you want in a, whether you're talking about a backup QB mentoring a young guy, or perhaps a guy that will be able to start and aid the process of getting a guy like Wilson up to speed, getting a team built around him so that when you bring the young guy back in, he has a bit more of a team around him, right?
Yeah.
But let's keep it going. We already, we had to get that off the table because, obviously everybody will be wondering when is he going to go? When's that trade going to happen? The entire night. Probably until about, I would say probably by the time you get to about pick 15, 16, you probably take all those rumors off the board because those first round picks are already done.
Yeah.
And it's got to go for a high first round, I feel like. At the very least, that has to be a component of anybody that's going to be trading for Deebo Samuel at this point.
If you get past the Eagle and Saints first picks, you're done. Right? I
think that's much later. First picks. Never mind. First picks.
Yeah. The only exception may be if you get both of the Packers' first-round picks and something else. Right, because the Packers got 22 and 28, right?
It's got to be, it's got to be substantial.
Both of them and maybe a roster player, right? What if it's both of them and, MVS? Right?
I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know.
For value, it's not there, but if these rumors are indeed true, and let's say you slip to that point, a little bit of desperation sneaks in there, right? Maybe you take a little bit lesser of a package to make sure you get a deal done.
Right. And again, we won't try to harp on this too much longer, no. But I think this is if you're the Niners, I hesitate to think that you have to do this. You have to make this trade. There's obviously talk about, he could hold out. He could play but be toxic in the locker room. I don't think number 2 is a thing because Niners players to come out and they're just like, he's got to get his shit done. That's the other side of it. It doesn't have to do with the locker room. It has to do with the business side of it. And that's a very applicable side. NFL teams have run their teams like businesses for a while, and players are just assets of that. So for a player to handle this in the opposite fashion, to where they know that they're an asset, but they know they're a valuable asset, and they're going to try to get theirs, completely understandable. So I don't think there's going to be any qualms on that end. And yeah, I don't see him doing, that Le'Veon Bell, I'm going to sit for a year. It's just a really bad move to do early on in your career. You're losing a year. And the fall off could be bad for you. So I don't know if you could necessarily do that. And yeah, you're signed for another year with the Niners right now. So your leverage in the situation is that, yeah, you sit or you just play the last year out unless you get extended here. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you either. I don't think there's necessarily an absolute need to do it, but it'll be interesting to see.
Absolutely. Interesting to see also is what the Giants are going to be doing. They got 2 early picks here, 5 and 7. Where do you got them going? Giants picking number 5 here.
This is where I got Trayvon Walker going. I think Trayvon Walker is one of the more fascinating stories in this class, because this is a guy who 6'5", 275, runs a 4.5 140. That alone, that combination of size and speed alone is going to get you your fair share of sacks in the NFL, right? That's just inevitable. But Trayvon Walker is such an interesting case, because of the top 10 picks that I have, he's probably the most raw one, right? Like, he's far from a finished product. His pass rushing moves are really dicey at times.
Right.
When you see him play at Georgia, right? He can really get forced way outside because he just doesn't have those real deadly moves. But he's also got a ceiling that might be comparable to that of Thibodeau. Like, he's the lowest floor of the 3 edge rushers that I've had go so far, but might be as high a ceiling as you see. He's this crazy athletic combination, had this unbelievable combine, but he's still very raw. That's why I actually like this move to the Giants, because the Giants have Leonard Williams as well, who had a pretty decent season, 6.5 sacks last year, right? So you put him on the opposite side of Williams. Now you got 2 pass rushers who are kind of doing the same thing, where they're trying to kind of develop their game a little bit, and they'll be able to grow together, right? And I really like this pick for the Giants. Again, more of a fit pick here, where I think teams are going to see that roughness on Walker and maybe be a little bit nervous with him, but the Giants are going to see it and go, well, hell, we got this guy on the other side who had 6.5 sacks last year, looks better as the year goes on. We put Walker on the opposite side. That gives us another focus on the opposite side. And we continue to build up this pass rushing game with Azeez Ojulari from the linebacker spot, who also had 8 sacks last year. Now we got some real pass rushing threats going on here. So I like Trayvon Walker here. Comparison, by the way, the PFF comparison is Rashawn Gary.
Okay.
So lowest floor of the guys I've mentioned so far, but a pretty damn high ceiling.
Yeah. And, that's when you talk about like hand skills and that sort of thing, like being able to really like work a offensive lineman, something you can work on. So when you're raw at that stuff, you get put through some training camps, with the pros, and it's got to sink or swim out there. You got to start picking this stuff up. Otherwise, your career will be rookie contract and out if you make it that far. Well, I don't think he'll absolutely fall anything that far.
I don't think he can. I think, like I said, combination size, speed that he's got, he'll be a guy who day one can do what Leonard Williams did last year, right? 6.5, 7 sacks this year, right? Just because of the sheer athletic freak he is, right? Yeah. This is a guy who, if he works on those pass rushing skills, is easily a double digit a season, 10, 11 sacks a year, is constantly in the all-pro discussion level of guy.
This is a very interesting one for me. I think I took a bit of time because 5 through 7 was a very tricky section for me, because you got Giants picks at the front and back of that, and you got Carolina in the middle of that, and I think some very similar needs for both teams. That's why I have the Giants for number 5 here. This is when Evan Neal comes off the board, tackle out of Alabama. If he hadn't gone already, I don't think the Giants could wait to pull this. I think if they don't pick up him here, absolutely Carolina takes him with number 6, no doubt. But I think this is where Neal is lucky enough to fall to for the Giants, and they pick him up here at number 5.
Completely fair. They need offensive line help bad.
Yeah, and I feel like Carolina, number 6, does as well. But who do you have them picking up, number 6?
When your GM goes out in the media and says, we need a leader at quarterback, and then if you don't go out there and pick a goddamn quarterback...
You got the... I mean, they already got the guy, though, right?
You're screwed. So with number 6, the Carolina Panthers are going to take Kenny Pickett.
Wow.
Quarterback from Pittsburgh. This is an interesting one, right? Because the PFF comparison, I've joked about this with you before. I've showed you the screenshot. They compared him to Sam Darnold. Yep. Brutal. I think a fairer comparison is his floor is Andy Dalton. His ceiling is Carson Palmer. Right? Whereas, he comes in day one. He can be a fine enough starter. Do some good things for you. If he really peaks, he could maybe make an all-pro team or two, right? Lead you to a playoff team. He's good enough to do that, right? But more importantly for Carolina right now isn't the ceiling of him, it's the floor. He comes in, he's the only guy in this draft class who can be a day one starter. He has above average arm strength. He's fairly fast. He's got really great accuracy. Right, this is a dude who doesn't miss. He comes in and he gives you a chance to win games off the bat. Now, is he necessarily going to steal you a bunch of games? No, probably not. And he'll never really be a guy who goes and steals you a bunch of games. But you're never going to lose because of Kenny Pickett. And I think that's why they end up taking him. Oh, and he has really small hands, I guess. I guess that's a problem too. But hey, Carolina went out there and said all of our quarterbacks suck. So they're going to take Kenny Pickett.
I've told you my nickname for Kenny Pickett, right?
No.
Kenny Mitts Pickett.
I love it. Lean into it, man. Lean into it.
Kenny
By the
Mitts.
way, the last guy who had hands as small as Kenny Pickett was a guy named Michael Vick. I hear he ended up being an okay quarterback. Was he an okay quarterback?
Yeah. Did all right. But even Vick would say he wished he played in a little bit different way. I've heard. I know he did an interview on McAfee about a month or so ago. It was like, yeah, I used my legs and it was great. Like, obviously, I can make guys miss, and it's great to kind of be thought of that pinnacle of the truly dynamic offensive threat that a dual threat quarterback could have.
Yeah.
But he's like, man, but there was times where it's like, you look at the film after, it's like, I could have hit that dude for 30 yards down the field and not have to run the 20 or whatever that I got.
Yeah.
So kind of interesting in that respect. I think, yeah, the whole the hands thing coming out and like, yeah, it's just a fun. Not fun for everybody, obviously. If you're Kenny Pickett, you hate to hear it, but it's like, it's just this crap that comes out during the offseason, leading up to the draft. Everybody's trying to just pick little things about players here and there, and like someone just, hey, his hands look a little small. Oh yeah, no, they are really small. Like
small hands. Can't play in cold weather, despite the fact that he played 4 years in Pittsburgh.
Right. Yeah. For me. So I'm going a little bit different away because I think if anybody would agree with where the Panthers fell off last year, it was the offensive side of the ball. That defense was stellar, and they, for all right, should have been in the conversation for a playoff team for sure. Yeah. And they were for a bit, but it fell off for sure toward the end of the year. They didn't have a damn chance by when everything was said and done. But my thinking here is that Carolina is going to be looking potentially to go a little bit more veteran. We still have Jimmy G, as we talked about. We got Baker Mayfield. They have Sam Darnold in the building. They potentially they claim they like. So I don't think they go quarterback here. This is when Ekwonu comes off the board for me. I have him going number 6. You have right now, McCaffrey that you're trying to hold on to, apparently. A guy who has been just getting his ass beat as the running back for that team for a few years now. Get him some help on the interior right there. I know he's not necessarily an interior runner, but all the protection, all the help that you can get, especially if you're, you're pulling out, you're doing kind of counters and that sort of thing. You're doing sweep plays. I think you need to strengthen up that line no matter who's behind center for that team. You need to get that line a little bit more shored up, and I think Ekwonu gives you that no matter what. And my thinking being that they have a solution at quarterback outside of going with a young guy right now. So that's kind of my thinking on that one.
That's completely fair. That would be the only other argument I have is like, if you're going to bring in a Garoppolo or a Baker Mayfield, then fine. You don't need to take a quarterback here. But if you're not going to do that, you damn well better not be starting the season with Sam Darnold as your starting quarterback after going out in the media and saying, like, all of our quarterbacks fucking suck.
Dude, but do you... Okay, but... and of course, we now, obviously, we have the entire example of the past season to look at. But do you remember that first month of Sam Darnold for the Panthers? Everybody was like, Sam Darnold wasn't the problem at all. It was the fucking Jets. They ruined him. Like, and then all of a sudden, the wheel fucking fall off completely. But there was a little bit there where it looked like, oh shit, is Sam Darnold actually a fucking guy?
There was a moment where Sam Darnold looked like a dude. Yeah. It was about 3 games, and
about a month in, it was... Nah.
Yeah, we were way too optimistic on it.
Cam, come back, Cam. Oh shit, that was a bad idea.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. If they're going with a veteran guy, you don't need to take a quarterback here. But I don't know if that's going to be the case for the Panthers. So I think they're just...
Sorry. I was going to say, is Cam even on anybody's radar right now? Is he even thought of even come... No, not at all.
No, I haven't heard anything about anybody looking at Cam Newton right now. And because, honestly, his last 2 times as an NFL starter, he looked completely out of place. Maybe XFL 2023.
USFL pickup? That would get the people looking again. Hey, you put Cam Newton out on the field.
Put Cam Newton at quarterback?
Why not? Yeah, I'd watch a fucking Cam Newton game if he was on the USFL. Yeah. It would definitely draw some rating.
I do like Kenny Pickett though. Like I know my saying, like, there's gonna be people who hear me comparing him floor Andy Dalton, ceiling Carson Palmer, and go, man, that's not great. People forget Carson Palmer had a couple really damn good years with Cincinnati and Oakland. He was a good quarterback. That's where Kenny Pickett will fall at his height. He will be a good quarterback. Right. And honestly, you look at the Panthers' recent quarterback history, they will take good quarterback.
Yeah. There's only so many ones you could really consider great. Exactly. Honestly. So it's like, yeah, you will take someone who will, the guy that could just kind of keep you afloat sometimes, for sure. Moved on to let's go to the Giants' second pick within the 3 picks there. Pick number 7, the Giants going again. Who do you got?
This is where I have Sauce Gardner going. I got Sauce Gardner going here. Quarterback, Cincinnati.
Be a huge pickup for him. Huge pickup.
Did you know that in his 4 years as a starter in college, he did not allow a single touchdown against? Not a single passing touchdown against. People will quickly say, oh, but he didn't play any great competition. Against Alabama, 4 catches, 14 yards. Yeah. That was against Jamison Williams. Remember that name. You'll hear it later.
Right.
This guy... So, PFF has him compared to Jimmy Smith. And what you'll learn quickly about PFF is they do not want to compare guys to all-time greats. They're very nervous about that.
Oh, yeah.
Sauce Gardner is Darrelle Revis. You put him on an island with their best wide receiver, and he's not touching the ball. That's what you get with Sauce Gardner. Dude's 6'3". His wingspan, I heard a number of 6'8" wingspan. The guy is ridiculous. His 40 He was never thought of as a speed guy. His 40 was in the top 10% of cornerbacks at this combine. He's down 10 pounds that he'll likely put back on, right? Now, yeah, he hasn't played a ton of zone, but whatever. You put him in man coverage against the other team's best receiver. He's absolutely the shutdown corner in this class by far.
And that's a great point. I've heard talks about this recently, and Darius Butler, former cornerback, he's brought this up very well before too. The idea of zone and man-to-man corners, and there is a difference for sure.
Yeah,
one is much more, playing to his scheme, playing to, working with the team, that sort of thing. But then you got those Darrelle Revis guys, where that is just give me that guy over there. Yeah. He's done. You worry about the other 10 motherfuckers out there, because I got this guy right here. That's huge. Yeah. And so I think in more cases than maybe some defensive coordinators might like to admit, that sort of thing. I think if you have the ability to pick up a guy who can just go man to man with somebody, I don't give a shit what your scheme is. Give me the guy that could just cover a guy one-on-one, and I'll figure out what to do with the other 10. I think that's sound defensive scheming right there. If you have the opportunity to get a guy like that, I would be very surprised myself if Gardner fell. That doesn't seem like much of a fall to 7. I'd be very surprised if he went 7. But at the same time, if you got quarterback being a look at, someone to look at there. Otherwise, I mean, obviously some great names already coming off the board. That would be an excellent pickup, and one that if the Giants get that at 7 with their second pick, that would be very nice for them for sure.
I didn't have them taking him at 5, by the way, because I think the Giants are going to be fairly comfortable. The Panthers are going to pick quarterback. Otherwise, if they're not comfortable about that, he goes 5. They would much rather have Gardner than Trayvon Walker, and that's not a shot on Trayvon Walker. But like I said, he's much more raw. He's going to need time. Sauce Gardner comes in day 1, and you go, okay, your job today is that receiver there, and that receiver doesn't see the ball, right? And that's something that you can't replace that, right?
For myself, this is where I got going. This is where I got Thibodeau going right here. 7 to the Giants, if he goes down that far, would be obviously, for a team that needs to get to the quarterback a little bit more. That's a great guy on the edge for you. It would be a pretty sound, you're going Evan Neal, Thibodeau with those 2 picks. That's shoring yourself up pretty nicely on the lines there if you're the Giants, and that's something that they could definitely use. And you already harped on Thibodeau pretty well there. Nothing more that really needs to be said on him. Would be an incredibly solid pick if they're able to get him a 7 there with their second
pick. If there is
pick.
a generational guy in this draft, it will end up being Kayvon Thibodeau. I'm willing to stake my name to that.
Keep it moving down. We got the Atlanta Falcons. This is if anybody knows, if anybody got the inside scoop right now on the Atlanta Falcons and what the hell they could be thinking this offseason. You've lost Matty Ice. You, unfortunately, due to some sportsbook shenanigans, you lost your top receiver. Where are you going if you're the Atlanta Falcons at number 8 right now?
So I'm going to say something, and I'm going to hear right away Falcons people going, but they need a wide receiver. I get that. I get that we need a wide receiver. I get it. They're not going to love any of the wide receivers in this class at 8. There's not going to be a wide receiver at 8 that they're going to love. So instead, they're going to take Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State, the edge rusher. I think another major issue for the Falcons last year was they could not get to opposing quarterbacks.
Right.
All the time in the world for people coming into it. Jermaine Johnson last year had 14 sacks and 9 TFLs. Coming into the combine, everybody said, the numbers are good and the tape bursts at you, but is he an athlete? And then he was in the top region of every measurable at the draft, except for he had the strangely bad vert jump, but I've heard at his pro days they've been a lot better. 14 sacks, 9 TFLs, combined with the fact that he had just a freak combine.
Yeah.
You're not going to pass on that guy at 8. PFF comparison is Deshaun Hall for Jermaine Johnson. But you're not going to pass on that. And I don't think there's a wide receiver in this class that you're going to love enough to look at Jermaine Johnson's combination of tape and freak athletic showing he just had and go, we can pass on him for that.
I think that's fair. Yeah, definitely a talent there. I don't have him go much further. I did drink the Kool-Aid, though. I do have the Atlanta Falcons taking wide receiver. I have him going Drake London out of USC.
Drake London, only one it could be.
Simply just a name I kept seeing at some top of the boards. Who does Atlanta have queuing for them right now? Then, obviously Matty Ice out. Who's quarterback for the Falcons?
They got Mariota.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. So, Pitts. That's something. But yeah, it's not like I was watching a lot of Drake London tape through this past year. Just kind of a name I kept seeing up there. Apparently a guy with some pretty good ball skills and a pretty big target as well. So would be interesting to see him in that offense. And yeah, just kind of more drinking the Kool-Aid that Atlanta needs a wide receiver. So I was like, all right, yeah, maybe I should just lean that way. So I went with that.
The other thing that caused me to do that is I have them swooping up John Mechie in the 3rd round.
Ooh.
Who I think is one of the more underrated receivers in this class and would go a lot higher if he didn't have a couple injury issues last season. So I think they'll be comfortable enough not going receiver here, knowing how deep this wide receiver class is, that they can pick up a guy who can help them later.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anything I've understood about how this class is kind of shaking out, it's that this first round isn't fantastic for as first rounders are deemed.
Yeah.
But the depth is there to where you could find guys 3rd round, 4th round.
Especially there's a few positions in particular in this draft where 2nd, 3rd, 4th round guys are going to be able to step in day one and help you. And wide receiver is absolutely one of them. You've got about 15 to 20 wide receivers in this class who could legitimately be NFL 2 to 3 guys, right? In that range. It is that deep of a wide receiver class. Like, you can take a guy like John Mechie in the 3rd round, right? So I just feel like there's too many good wide receivers here for the Falcons to feel like they need to reach. Right, and instead they're going to see Jermaine Johnson fall to them, all of the great stuff that Jermaine Johnson brings, and they're just going to... I don't think they're going to let that go.
Moving down, we talked about them a little bit as being not a team that's usually picking this high up in the draft. We got the Seattle Seahawks coming in at number 9 for their pick. Who do you got coming off the board for the Seahawks here? The Russell Wilson list Seahawks, oddly enough. So definitely a change in the feel for this team.
This draft class is so weird, and I'll tell you why. I had a choice between 2 guys here for Seattle. The guy that I end up having them taking, and the other guy I don't even think goes in the 1st round if Seattle doesn't take him.
Wow.
So my choices were between Malik Willis and Sam Howell. And I think they take Malik Willis here.
Ooh.
I think they take Malik Willis out of Liberty. Malik Willis to me is by far the highest ceiling QB in this draft class. He's an unbelievable athlete. He's got a cannon arm. He broke 146 tackles at Liberty, right? Like, this is a guy who's absolutely disgusting. They have a nice, freshly acquired Drew Lock who they can throw out there to take the lumps this year and have Malik Willis behind him, kind of getting reps in practice, doing scout squad stuff, maybe doing some Wildcat stuff this year. I could see them maybe breaking out some Wildcat stuff with Malik Willis. What stops him from really being a day one starter is the fact that against Power 5 teams last year, he really struggled. Ole Miss and North Carolina State made him look bad. He has a bad tendency to telegraph throws too, where he'll just look at a guy, and that's the guy he's throwing to, right? He doesn't have that good eye movement yet, where he's able to look defenders off and stuff like that. Things you'll need at the next level. These are all things you can learn, though, right? These are they're bad habits that can be broken out of you over time. I don't think Malik Willis is ready to go out there day one and play every snap, but I do think you'll be able to work him into some stuff in day one. PFF comparison is Cordell Stewart. I think his ceiling's probably a little bit higher than that, to be honest with you. I think, no disrespect to Cordell Stewart, who was a very good quarterback in his own time, to be fair, but I think his ceiling's probably closer to that of a Russell Wilson. If he corrects these issues, this guy's a game changer at quarterback. So I think they're not gonna be able to pass on that, despite the fact that he has the lower floor of all the quarterbacks we're going to talk about.
Yeah. I did not, the consideration for, I mean, they need to start bringing somebody up, and I think actually Wells, thinking about it, that's probably a really smart pick for them. But I have Jermaine Johnson going here for Seattle because, kind of like your reasoning with the pick beforehand, if he's still on the board, he's still there for you. I think this is a big need for Seattle too. Yeah. Their pass rush fell completely off. They got nothing there. So if they could get somebody like a Johnson that could come in day one and really start that rebuild for that defense, that's a great place to start for them. So that's who I got going off. You'll see. Yeah, this is definitely interesting. The two quarterbacks off the board before we go into the double digits here as far as the picks.
Yeah, I like this quarterback class more than most people do. It's an interesting class, right? Because it doesn't look good on paper, right? There's not a lot of guys who are going to come in day one and be Trevor Lawrence or be Mac Jones, right? And so you look at that and you go, wow, what a bad class. But I think there's a whole crap ton of great potential development quarterbacks in this class that can really be difference makers. Like I said, I think Malik Willis at his ceiling has like Russell Wilson kind of potential. The guy's got a ridiculous arm, can run faster than anybody you've ever seen, and broke 146 tackles. Dude would have been a round one running back if he decided to move to running back a few years back. Because that was a thing that was talked about with Malik Willis, was moving him to running back. Dude would have been a round one running back. Like, he's that good of a runner. So he comes in day one, and you can use him in some funky sets. And unlike a lot of Wildcat quarterbacks we talk about, teams would actually have to fear his arm. He's got an absolute rocket. Kenny Pickett, like I said, maybe not the highest ceiling, but his floor is I'm coming in and being a good starter, right? There's going to be some guys we talk about later. I mentioned Sam Howell's name. I don't have him going in the first round, but Sam Howell's another guy. His PFF comparison is slower Russell Wilson. That's how much they love Sam Howell. Like, there's a lot of talent in this quarterback class, despite it not being seen necessarily on paper. And I think the Seahawks are just going to love how much Malik Willis will remind them of Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely comparison there for sure between the two. I would agree with that. Then let's get that short up there. We move out of the into the last pick of the top 10 here. We got the Jets yet again going with their second pick in that top 10. Who do you like going to the Jets here?
This is where I have Drake London going. I got Drake London going here. I think him being the first wide receiver off the board is kind of a no-brainer. He looks like the best wide receiver in this class. He's kind of an old school wide receiver in a lot of ways. He's not going to burn you off the line, right? He doesn't have insane speed, but don't test this man in the air. This is a dude who, his vertical jump that he put out there was ridiculous. You compare that with the hands he's got. 6'4", 220. This is a guy who you throw jump balls up to him 30 yards down the field, and he comes down with them. He's that kind of a guy. physical machine. He's going to be hard to guard for anybody. Would have been a surefire Bolitnikov winner this year if he hadn't injured his ankle against Arizona. Right. I think the one thing that scares you a little bit with him is he dropped 8 balls last year. Right. And I think that might be a little bit concerning. But this is a guy who day one has 1,000-yard 10 TD potential. Right. PFF comparison to him is Brandon Marshall. I think that's one of the best comparisons they have in this class. I think this dude reeks of prime Brandon Marshall, and he's an absolute wide receiver you want on your team. And by the way, if fictitious trade with the 49ers does happen, the 49ers also take Drake London here. So I
No.
Drake London's got to be your first guy off the board if you're taking a wide receiver, I think.
I would say if you got a wide receiver going here as your first, absolutely. I have Garrett Wilson here going to the Jets as the second wide receiver off the board because I had Drake London going to the Falcons 2 picks prior. So I got Garrett Wilson. So another wide receiver, just kind of the next one off the board here for the Jets because if they do miss on, they don't get Debo. And they were out there for Tyreek as well, but didn't get that, unfortunately. They're clearly looking for somebody to come into that wide receiver room. And so I think this is kind of next one falling in line there for the Jets. We'll see how that shakes out, of course, though.
That is very fascinating to me, which you'll find out why in a bit.
All right. Moving on. Pick number 11, we got the Washington... I want to just call them the football team still. I don't like the Commanders.
Call them the commies.
The commies. The Washington team. No, it's just the they are going to be going number 11 here. What do you got?
My second biggest slider in this class, as far as where the guy was projected to go to where he actually goes, I got them taking Kyle Hamilton here. Out of Notre Dame.
We lined up on a pick. We did. We finally lined up a pick. I got Kyle Hamilton as well. Let's go.
Kyle Hamilton is not a track star. We learned that at his combine. Very disappointing 4.640. But this is a guy who lined up for 114 snaps at safety, 87 snaps at linebacker, 227 snaps as a slot corner, 6 snaps as a wide corner, and 4 snaps as an edge rusher. You put him anywhere on the field, he can do it. He had 8 INTs at Notre Dame. He's got the range and frame to be able to shut down tight ends, but you can also put him against wide receivers, and he will not look out of place at all. This is a guy who can come in and kind of do anything you really need him to do. Hamilton really should go sooner than this, but he probably won't. So 11 to the commies, they're not going to pass on Kyle Hamilton. By the way, comparison, longer Derwin James.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I call Kyle Hamilton. I like the idea of if you have someone who has that much experience, has played kind of all over the place, and probably has just a good feel for seeing the field in general. I think that's kind of what you need in a safety. You need a safety that has the ability to really take an entire play into perspective. And hopefully that's what Washington gets here with Hamilton. I love the pick. And oddly enough, all the way down, pick number 11, we finally line up for one. Oddly enough, after everything. That's pretty great. Moving on. Keep it going. Pick number 12.
Not going to be lining up here.
Probably not. Let's see. Minnesota. Disappointing season for sure. But they seem to have kind of more or less doubled down on Kirk Cousins right now. So this is very interesting. What do you got? What do you got?
I got them taking Derek Stingley Jr. here. That's how I knew we weren't going to line up because you already had him off the board.
Yes.
If Derek Stingley Jr., by the way, could have left college as a true freshman, he would have gone number 1. His 2019 campaign was ridiculous for LSU. He was a freak. He's been injured ever since, right? 2020, he had a Lisfranc sprain that needed surgery. 2020 was an ankle sprain. 2021, he had the Lisfranc sprain that ended his season after 3 games. All that being said, you don't care. You take Derek Stingley Jr. here. He's so much just incredible amounts of talent. When he was healthy, he allowed a 38% completion stat. When balls were thrown his way, they were completed 38% of the time. He's not a great tackler because he's a cornerback, but guess what? When the other quarterback only completes 38% of his passes to you, you don't need to tackle much anyways. The Vikings secondary needs an impact player so badly. I still love you, Patrick Peterson, but you're not an impact player anymore. They get that guy with Derek Stingley Jr. here. I don't think there's any question. PFF comparison to him is Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie.
I dig it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, if Stingley goes there, I think it's a great play. That's a great call for them. I have Minnesota because they're from kind of things I'm reading, and it makes a little bit of sense given the way their team's built. I think they're somewhat solid at the position already. This is a guy who's going to be able to come in and potentially be a guy to fill in one of these top 2 spots for you down the line. I got another wide receiver, oddly enough, coming off the board here. I got Chris Olave out of Ohio State going to Minnesota. The thing being with, I guess, with obviously you got a solid one in Adam Thielen there. No doubt about that. You want to help out. You want to keep helping out a guy like Kirk Cousins. The only other guy, and this guy might come up pretty soon, I was very much tossing this up between these 2 picks, and I was actually flipping 12 and 13 based on this. So it's a little bit of a spoiler for what my next pick is going to be. I was flipping Charles Cross and Chris Olave.
We're about to match.
So I got Olave going to Minnesota here, and I'll just spoil it right now. I got Charles Cross going to the Houston.
I also have Charles
13.
Cross
Look
going
at
to
that.
Houston.
Look at that.
The Texans need offensive line help. If they are going with Davis Mills going forward, gotta protect them. Charles Cross is an absolute beast. 6'5", 307. Is shockingly light on his feet. I was watching some tape while I was doing this of Charles Cross, just kind of get an idea. Dude is freakishly light on his feet. He made such huge strides last year. If he just continues to make strides the way he has the last couple of seasons, he's gonna be a great NFL tackle. His comparison, by the way, another reason why I put him on Houston, I guess, Laramie Tunsil. So,
let's talk about it now, because I'm sure you saw the news about Tunsil today.
Yeah.
What a way to just own it, right? And his, right now I think there's talk about, he might be moving as far as, being a player right now, where he's at. Larry Tunsil with the biggest draft night fiasco I think we've seen since maybe the A-Rod Alex Smith situation way back.
Yeah.
Maybe you throw the Eli Manning Chargers shenanigans, into there as well. But the most recent one, that was an absolutely absurd thing. You almost would, it's funny, you think about that situation happening now, probably not that big of a fucking deal now. But back then, absolutely, when that story came out, and everything that's come out behind it, as far as, I guess, what was this? Stepfather or father-in-law that ended up being the one who leaked that shit out in the first place, or some shit they had against. It was
father-in-law, I think, yeah.
Absolutely fucked situation, and one that, absolutely screwed his, his draft stock situation. But now, selling an NFT of that video, and for it to go to support incarcerated folks, in trouble for, distribution or growing or whatever of weed. Hell of a turnaround story. Fucking great story to read about today with Tunsil there. But Charles Cross, you need it. You need help anywhere you get it, probably with Houston. But I think offensive tackle, not a bad place to go at number 13 here.
No, not at all. I love Charles Cross in Houston. I think it just makes so much sense.
Curious if we got this one too. We might.
I don't think so, because I have Baltimore reaching a little bit.
Oh, okay. Baltimore on the reach. Let's hear it. Baltimore picking at number 14.
I got them taking George Karlaftis, edge rusher from Purdue. They
Not.
could go anywhere really, and if if I were really them, I think I'd look to take either Trevor Penning or Trent McDuffie here.
Hmm.
But Calais Campbell is 35. They signed him for another year. It looks like more of a stopgap than anything else. George Karlaftis had a really good year at Purdue last season. 6'4", 226, was a water polo player in Greece. He had a freak combine. He 4.36 shuttle with a 38-inch vert. It was absolute freak combine. The only reason it flew under the radar a little bit is he didn't run the 40. He's a guy who every season has seemed to build upon what he did in the last. 5 sacks, 9 TFLs last year for the Boilermakers, playing against stiff competition in the Big Ten. That's only going to keep improving. He struggles a little bit with his with the run game at times. Gets a little bit fancy in his pass rushing, but I ultimately think the Ravens could really use a little bit of youth at that edge rusher position. And I think Karlaftis fits that well. PFF comparison for him is Courtney Upshaw.
All right. Somewhat similar position. A little bit more inside, though. I got them going Jordan Davis out of Georgia, defensive tackle, at number 14 there.
I love me some Jordan Davis. So.
I mean, again, yeah, getting some youth on that line. I suppose nothing specific about that pick. Very interesting that you have Karlaftis going number 14. Because who do I got to go in number 15?
You have
George Karlaftis going to the Philadelphia Eagles myself. So what do you got for number 15?
This is where I have Chris Olave going. If you want to give Jalen Hurts a real chance to succeed in 2022, you got to give him the tools to succeed. Chris Olave may be the best wide receiver in this class. I know I said Drake London looks like it, but Chris Olave may be that guy. He's a scary route runner. Like, if you watch him run routes and what he does to cornerbacks at the college level, it's absolutely disgusting. He's not a burner, but he's certainly got enough speed to outrun guys. A little bit on the skinny side, but his hands are pretty sure, and he can just come in day one, make an impact. I remember when I said that PFF doesn't like to compare elite players to draftees. His comparison here is Calvin Ridley. Oh. They think very highly of Chris Olave.
Yeah, sounds like. Okay. Yeah, and I got
Karlaftis makes sense to the Eagles for sure, who God could use some defensive help pretty much everywhere.
Right. Moving down, let's get to it. Number 16, we're getting to the middle of the draft here. New Orleans Saints. They got 2 picks here within 5 at number 16 and number 19. Who do you got them taking with their first pick here?
They made that trade with the Eagles. I doubt they had planned to do it to pick a quarterback. But Desmond Ridder is just sitting there.
Wow.
And there ain't no way the Saints are going to let him go any further. I got them taking Desmond Ridder here. Desmond Ridder, I think, is the only quarterback in this class outside of Kenny Pickett who could realistically start day one, but he's got a way higher ceiling than Kenny Pickett. His 40 time was very good. He's a very polished quarterback. He doesn't have a cannon arm, but he's very polished. He does have a problem sometimes within the first 5 or 6 passes of games. If you watched Cincy games, I watched a lot of Cincy games, as you guys might know if you've listened to some of these other podcasts. So within the first 5 or so passes, he can sometimes struggle, but these are things that will be buffed out over time, right? Like I said, this is not a guy who's a finished product by any stretch. But you got a guy with a decent floor, very high ceiling. I think the Saints just really feel like this is a guy they can trust in the position. And it's something they haven't had since Drew Brees left, right? They scrambled a lot last year. I don't think they want to do that this year. They're going to take Desmond Ridder here, I think. The PFF comparison for him, Josh Johnson.
Okay. So this is an interesting one for me because I kind of realized later, because I'll tell you right now. Early on, oddly enough, you have Desmond Ridder, quarterback, going. This is where I had Pickett slotted in, because I haven't had Pickett come off the board yet. I had Pickett at 16. But then I saw kind of Chargers and Philly are the next picks after that. They're not going QB. So they'll probably hold off on Pickett if they can, if it falls to them like this. There's no threat there between 16 and 19. If nothing else changes, that they lose a quarterback. My assumption, anyways, that Philly likes Hurts. Obviously, Chargers, they love.
Herbert.
Herbert, thank you. So no worries about that. So this is you make sure you get the guy you want right here. You pick the best player you want available. For me, this is where I like Jameson Williams going to New Orleans, wide receiver out of Alabama.
Fair enough. Interestingly enough, no, I'll save it. Okay.
All right. Well, let's without further ado, let's keep it going. Moving down, number 17 pick. That is the Chargers. Very surprising pick, being right here in the middle for a team that you would have expected to have been in those later rounds with making the playoffs. They did not, and so they're picking here. Who do you got the Chargers picking at the first pick of the second half of the first round, basically?
Initially, I thought the Chargers were going to go defense. Then they did a lot of good defensive things in free agency. Mm-hmm. Now I got them going Trevor Penning out of... We got it?
Let's go, Trevor Penning. Yes, out of Northern Iowa.
Level of competition be damned. This dude's a beast. 6'7", 325. Dude ran a 40 that's faster than 8 current NFL starters at 6'7", 325. There's no way Trevor Penning stays on the board any longer than this. Chargers could really use some offensive line help. Like I said, initially I thought they were going to go defense. Then they did a lot of good things defensively. They're going to take Trevor Penning here. His floor is he's a very good NFL run blocker. Like, that's his floor, right? Yeah. His ceiling is ridiculous. Anthony Costanzo is the PFF comp. But like I said, his floor, like day one, he's a very good run blocker in the NFL.
Yeah. This was kind of just, I just kind of worked this down. I was kind of taking a look at the players that I had already coming off the board. The guys who I would maybe have floated around in this area are needs that the Chargers have already filled, more or less. So, I kind of had to take a look and who wouldn't like to get another potentially starting tackle on your team right there that you get with Penning. I suppose maybe some issues as far as like I don't want to say attitude, but just outside of football kind of issues that he's had. Locker room. I don't even know if locker room issues would be the appropriate thing. Just, get into shenanigans, but he's a kid. I think, I think obviously you're looking at a really strong tackle right here. If you could get this at number 17, I think you take it. So, yeah, we both agree there on Penning to the Chargers, number 17. And we'll keep it moving here. Number 18, we got Philly picking again. Right there with New Orleans after them again. So, 18-19, a little interesting shakeup here. Who do you got going number 18 to Philly?
I had the Eagles taking Devin Lloyd here out of Utah. As far as interior linebackers go, this guy's the most complete one in this draft. He stops the run. He helps in pass protection. He's good on the blitz. Tall. He's a little bit bulky. Does everything well. He's a 5-tool player, so to speak. Not the greatest athlete in the world. And he's just a good tackler as opposed to being pretty much great everywhere else in his game. But he's a very smart linebacker. If you've seen him play against the option, he doesn't bite. And he's a very patient QB spy. All things that you need nowadays out of a linebacker, given the way that the game has shifted with speedy quarterbacks who can beat you on the edge. PFF comp for him is Fred Warner. I think that's a very fair comp. I think he's just a really good step into your defense and make a difference guy?
I think, yeah, yeah, that's a good one. And that was one thing I was kind of surprised by, is that as I was going through this and taking a look at some other mocks and that sort of thing, I was just like, man, yeah, I'm not seeing much linebacker action here in this first round. But yeah, Lloyd, I could see that. I actually have Philly strengthening up that secondary quite a bit. I have them going Dax Hill out of Washington with this pick. You've had already a couple of those really primo corners that you weren't going to be able to get anyways, as far as Sauce Gardner and Stingley coming off the board. I think Dax is almost your 2A right here. If you're going 1A, 1B with Sauce and Stingley there, this might be your 2A right here in Dax Hill. I think just a generally strong pick. You already have, I would say Philly has a decent secondary going for him right now. So you hope this is someone that's just going to really flesh out, give you a lot more depth, and potentially be a guy who's going to be 1-2 for that team.
Yeah, that's fair. I love Dax Hill. I got him going a little bit later, but I do love Dax Hill. And cannot argue that pick at all. 19, New Orleans Saints. Tap, remind me who you had going 15 to the New Orleans Saints? It was Jameson Williams, wide receiver at Alabama.
16, I had Jameson Williams.
16, yeah. 19, New Orleans Saints. I got Jameson Williams, wide receiver from Alabama.
Okay. I see how we did. Here.
I love Jameson Williams. I think. By the way, the reason I held off on Jameson Williams is because the pick before I had the Eagles going Olave.
Yes.
So the Saints know that they're not going to go back-to-back wide receiver there. The Chargers not going to go wide receiver either. They felt comfortable taking Ritter first. That's why I didn't want to say it at the time.
Yeah.
Because
it
obviously would have spoiled the Williams pick.
Yeah.
But I same boat as you, where they know for sure that the guy they want's not going to be taken behind them.
Yeah.
So you take this guy first.
Yeah.
Williams is, he's a one-season wonder, but it's because he only was able to get on the field for one season, and boy, what a season it was. He spent 2 years at Ohio State, which I don't think a lot of people know. And he didn't see the field at all because Ohio State had a room that included Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Terry McLaurin, and Paris Campbell. Good luck seeing the field.
Right.
He moved to Alabama and then put up 1,561 yards and 15 touchdowns, averaging 20 yards a catch on 78 catches. Dude he's an absolute beast of a route runner. The only reason that I have him slipping this far is that torn ACL he's coming off of, and teams being a little bit worried about how that thing will heal.
Right.
That being said, you line up Williams opposite of Michael Thomas, and everybody's scared. PFF comp for him, by the way, taller Deshaun Jackson. But Jameson Williams is he's an absolute freak. I'm sure that ACL injury is not going to slow him down that much.
Yeah. This is hilarious because, as far as how we, not handcuffed, but basically, hedging your bets sort of thing. Just making sure that you get at least one of your guys, and you probably be pretty sure you're going to get the second guy. And a very good point as far as the wide receivers probably not falling off the board there. Probably, if they line up that way for 17 and 18. Likewise, I have now New Orleans going quarterback, and this is where Kenny Pickett comes off the board for me. Number 19 out of Pitt. You need something. You need someone there. Obviously, the experimental kind of situation you put yourself in with what's that? Oh my God.
Taysom Hill.
Thank you, Hill. Yeah. Yeah. Just obviously, you've moved on. You're now naming him like a tight end, I think.
Yeah.
I think at this point, Kenny Pickett here. Just kind of a flip. I think, the idea that could be interchangeable, 16 and 19, with wide out and quarterback, kind of pretty applicable. I think they need weapons on that offensive side, and that's a good call for him right there. So, yeah, Kenny Pickett, number 19 on my board there.
I think everything I said about Kenny Pickett going to Carolina rings true with New Orleans. Listen, this guy can come in and be a good quarterback for you day one. Is he going to be the world's greatest quarterback? No. Is he ever going to develop into the world's greatest quarterback? Probably not. But he comes in day one and is a good quarterback, and that's something New Orleans desperately needs right now.
Yeah. I mean, you want to have... I think New Orleans is in one of those interesting positions because despite everything, they were still very much in the running. There's a reason why they're picking still kind of middle of the board here. Yeah. They were, until the last week, a potential playoff team. With an expanded field, of course. But still, the fact that they were even in that conversation goes to show how much of a team you have kind of built up around it. And you were trotting fucking Taysom Hill out there to take snaps for you. That was... at times, that was absolutely dismal. Like, I could... Like, that offense couldn't do a damn thing. So, yeah, you add in a couple weapons. I think a very smart move for New Orleans to do here. Get him young, get him cheap, or cheaper, than potentially some equivalent talent that are veterans there. So, good potential call there for him. A team that somehow, some way, did sneak into the fucking playoffs, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers. They have moved on. Big Ben has been torn down. It's time for a new era. Who do you got in Pittsburgh going number 20?
The Steelers definitely need to address quarterback.
Right.
And they could easily be going quarterback here. But in my mock, quarterbacks have kind of gone at a decent rate. So the three best quarterbacks are gone here. Are they willing to reach on Sam Howell here? I don't think so. So instead, I got them addressing a different need entirely. I got them going Zion Johnson, guard from Boston College.
Great.
Listen, they've needed to work on their offensive line for fucking years.
Right.
If all the other quarterbacks you like are gone, might as well do it now. This guy's probably one of the best guards in this class, right? If not the best interior offensive lineman in general. There's somebody else who I like in this class, too, that we'll get to a little bit later in the first round who could argue that, but he's definitely the best guard. He actually played some okay tackle, too, if you really wanted to move him out there, but he's a little bit small to be an NFL tackle. Yeah, they could go for quarterback here, but I think the bigger win for them in the long run is secure that offensive line finally get something going. You've got a running back you like in Najee Harris. Get him some help in Zion Johnson. Zion Johnson's PFF comparison, Laken Tomlinson.
Okay.
They like him. They like him.
No, I mean, yeah. Tomlinson, some shaky points, of course, but I think now you would say absolutely. That's a great comparison. Since my quarterback board's a little different, and I just had Pickett coming off as the first quarterback on my board, I got Malik Willis going right here to Pittsburgh.
Interesting.
Back-to-back quarterbacks. We already have, I think, some confirmation. And this kind of goes back against some thoughts that I had before, in that you have God, I am forgetting names left and right. How am I forgetting? Head coach for the Steelers.
Mike Tomlin.
Thank you, Tomlin. Jesus Christ. Tomlin, I'm still kind of set in the idea because they have brought in Mitch now from Buffalo to give it another go with Mitch Trubisky, and you'll have that there. Apparently Tomlin really likes Willis. And while I don't think it's going to be a thing to where I don't think Tomlin is going to be around that much crazy longer as a head coach.
Yeah.
I think he wants to maybe go through these first few years with Malik Willis. So I see this as actually a really nice landing spot potentially for Willis. I do completely agree with Zion as far as being a great pickup for them if they don't have Willis here. I have Willis falling to them, luckily, though, and I have them picking him up as soon as they possibly can with Pickett just coming off the pick beforehand. So,
yeah, I completely forgot they had gotten Trubisky. Otherwise, Otherwise, I would have said like over Ritter, but no. Since they've got Trubinsky, Willis makes complete sense here, because they don't need a quarterback to step in day one. Trubinsky can come in and lose you games just as well as anybody else. Um,
True.
so
Absolutely.
so
He can lose with the best of them, boys. Let's
so yeah,
go.
yeah. No, picking up Willis
Yeah,
here makes a
yeah.
lot of sense for them if he falls that
If he
far.
does.
I just feel like teams are gonna like this quarterback class more than people think.
I was surprised by the end of it. I have more quarterbacks than I thought. I thought I was gonna have 2 quarterbacks coming off my board, and then when I really took a look at it, we'll see as we go down, but maybe a little bit more. But I got the 2 coming off a little later than maybe expected at 19 and 20 here. And I'll just lead right into it. I'll go right into pick number 21 with New England, and this is why I love that Zion Johnson pick, because I got Zion Johnson actually going to the Patriots number 21 here.
I would have had it if he didn't go 20.
Exactly. And just because Willis fell to him,
Yeah.
if Willis wasn't there, I think Pittsburgh goes Zion for sure. They go quarterback instead. New England sees the opportunity, and they go Zion Johnson, basically. That's my thought.
No, I absolutely, initially I wanted to go Zion Johnson here, but when I realized that the Steelers probably weren't going to reach for quarterback, Zion Johnson made too much sense there. I got them going Andrew Booth Jr. out of Clemson.
Okay.
Lost J.C. Jackson this offseason, obviously. They need to fill
That's a
a
great point.
cornerback role. Booth is not as dominant as Sauce or Stingley, but he's probably the best all-arounder in this class. He was only a one-year starter at Clemson, but he did score 2 touchdowns last year and only allowed 329 yards against. So, I mean, he's not the dominant guy that, say, Sauce or Stingley is, but he does have number 1 cornerback potential. And he's the very weird case of a quarterback who loves to tackle and maybe tries too hard to throw big hits. They can rein him back a little. If Belichick can just pull that in a little bit, he does have a great potential quarterback on his hands. The PFF comp for this one is Vontae Davis.
All right. Not too shabby. Yeah.
I'm going to address an elephant in the room before we go to 22.
Let's go.
I got a wide receiver going at 22.
Oh.
It is not Garrett Wilson.
Not Garrett Wilson.
I do not have Garrett Wilson going in the first round.
Wow.
Garrett Wilson
He
is going to have
falls.
a bad round 1 draft day. Here's the thing. There's 2 things about Garrett Wilson that concern me.
Right.
Number 1 is he played on a team that was stacked full of wide receivers all the time and was never the best guy among them. Right? He was never better than McLaurin. He was never better than Paris Campbell. He was never better than Chris Olave. Number 2, and maybe the most damning one, is he's got an attitude problem. Apparently his interviews have been atrocious. He's on a lot of teams do not touch list. That combined with the fact that this wide receiver class is already very deep makes me worried Garrett Wilson might see a slide. I could be very wrong about this, but again, we're doing something with this mock draft where we play a little bit of we're doing a little bit of guess what's gonna happen that's really crazy, like the one story that happens every draft. I think this year it's the slide of Garrett Wilson. I don't think Garrett Wilson goes till early second round.
Okay.
So with that being said, the Green Bay Packers do not take Garrett Wilson. They take Treylon Burks, wide receiver out of Arkansas.
Yep.
This pick does kind of require the Packers to look past Burks' really bad combine. But players have had bad combines in the past. They'll have bad combines in the future. His tape is too good to ignore for too long. Treylon Burks accounted for almost 40% of Arkansas's catching offense last year and 11 touchdowns. He's a strength-speed combo guy. He's not the most polished route runner in the world, but he's a freak athlete who can make up for that. You put him with Aaron Rodgers throwing him the rock, he's got real potential out there. The PFF comp for him is Dante Moncrief. And he's just a scary strength-speed combo guy.
Oddly enough, also have Treylon Burks going here. I do have, obviously, Garrett Wilson coming off the board well before this, but I can't imagine with losing Devontae Adams that they don't take a wideout again.
Oh, they have to.
They have to. Right?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah, they have to.
I mean, they could fumble it again and not, but I have a feeling it's just too much of a chance. And based on where I had the wide receiver slotted, I actually have Burks going here. I'm kind of curious as far as the fall. Are we talking like for you for Garrett Wilson, like Dotson Watson coming off before him as far as wide receivers?
I have.
Which I also just want to say Dotson and Watson back to back because that's just fun.
2 more wide receivers coming off before him.
Wow. So he really falls because I have Jameson Wilson. Yeah. Wow. That's
very, very concerned about the fact that he's never been a true number 1 guy, and B, the fact that apparently coming out of interviews, teams are having real concerns about him, right? And I think you're going to combine those two things, and you're going to look at guys like Treylon Burks, guys like Chris Olave. Like I said, this is such a deep class,
right?
Where Garrett Wilson's ultimately going to be looked at as maybe potentially more of a hindrance than he's worth, given the talent around him.
Yeah.
If that's the case, I'm buying into some hype here. I'm not going to lie, right? Because if that's not the case and those interviews aren't happening, he's going very early. He's going 10 to 15 range.
Right.
But if these interviews are happening and you're a team interviewing this guy and he's going in there failing at everything, and then you look at, say, Treylon Burks or, I mentioned Jameson Williams earlier, right? I do think Chris Olave is the better one of the two of them anyway, so he'll go before him anyway, in my opinion. But, like, you look at Jameson Williams, you look at Treylon Burks, you already mentioned Dotson, right? There's a large group of really good wide receivers in this class. And if you're going out there burning bridges, there's too much talent to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm buying a little bit of hype. I'm probably wrong, right? He probably does go in the first round. But I don't know. I don't trust the stories I'm hearing. Usually where there's smoke, there's fire.
I mean, wouldn't be the first wide receiver to have issues, but at the same time, you don't want that right off the bat.
No.
You got to be like an established vet to be chirping up and causing problems like that. And if you haven't already been a number 1 guy, like you pointed out, that's a big thing. I didn't really, and that's what comes with actual knowledge of their college game. That it comes from a guy like me, because I just kind of see some names and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, big name. Yeah, and coming from a good school, all right, yeah, let's go, Ohio State, yeah. But
and it does help him a little bit coming from Ohio State, obviously, because like I mentioned, the names that were ahead of him were Paris Campbell, Terry McLaurin, and Chris Olave.
Yeah.
2 of those guys are already scary good NFL wide receivers. The third one's going to be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's hard to say that he, if you put him on, say, Arkansas, where Treylon Burks was, that he wouldn't be Treylon Burks level, be the number 1 guy for Arkansas. He probably would. But that's got to be a little bit of a concern, I imagine, for teams. Right. So I combine that with the fact that he might have a bit of an attitude problem, and I think there's a chance that teams go, there's too much talent around here to take you here. Right? Whereas once we get into the second round, I don't have him going very far in the second round, by the way. He's not falling down to the 50s. Like, this is a guy who, if I don't have the second round listed out here.
Oh, no worries.
But I imagine Jacksonville doesn't let him go past them. Right? Like, if Jacksonville's picking first pick round 2, they're not letting Garrett Wilson go past them.
Okay.
But I think there might be too much talent in this receiver class.
Yeah, I mean, and like we kind of stated before, you're talking about guys second, third, fourth round in not just wide receivers, obviously, other positions as well, but wide receiver is definitely there as far as steps is concerned. A lot of guys out. Let's keep moving. Arizona picking number 23, the up and down Cards, as we kind of know them. think. Well, no, I'm actually
They
yeah.
are
I mean,
not taking a wide receiver. I will promise you
I'm very interested.
that.
Yeah, I'm very interested where you're thinking with this one. Yeah, another wide receiver on the board, right? Who do you got
I
for
have
Arizona at number 23?
I have the Cardinals taking Boye Moff, defensive lineman out of Minnesota. This is a guy who, up until about a month ago, wasn't really talked about this high, and then just exploded. Had a great combine. People started to look at his tape and go, "Oh shit, this guy's got some ability."
Okay.
The Cards need defensive line help. They do.
Yeah, they do.
Right. And they could use some pass rush help, and Boye Moff gives you a little bit of both. He's got this undeniable combination of size and speed. He is 23, right? That he is on the older side. His production doesn't blow your mind the way some of the other rushers on this list have come off. But the potential you see, he destroyed the Senior Bowl. His workouts have all been incredible. Cards are gonna love his size on the line. I think this pick here, he's just exploded up boards, and I think the Cards are just they're gonna love what they see, and I think they're gonna like him here. His PFF comp is Joseph Osai.
Um. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they thinking about actually, they did lose huge edge rusher right there. Should have thought about that. I still like my pick though. We'll see. Who knows? I this is where I actually have Andrew Booth going. I got him going number 23.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, if you're not helping out your pass rush, help out your pass defense, your direct pass defense.
Quote anything on your defense, Arizona.
Yeah, for more or less. Yeah, you could go here. Yeah, and actually, you know what? Honestly, I was kind of kicking around Quay Walker potentially or Dean if you wanted a linebacker, but I feel like they're a little stronger at linebacker if I remember correctly for Arizona.
They are a little bit, yeah.
So yeah, it was either line. I didn't feel like the line was here. I do actually like that Moff pick. He'll be coming up in my mock draft in a little bit here, a little later. But yeah, I have Booth still kind of sliding down here, and I think this would be a solid addition for him in that secondary. Great piece to just be able to throw in there. And from what I kind of understand with Booth, you're talking about a guy who could probably scheme fit pretty well, correct? Like he's
not Sauce Gardner and Derek Stingley, where he does something to a ridiculous level where you're just going to have him do that.
Yeah.
Andrew Booth can do what you ask him to do. If you want him to play slot, he can play slot.
Yeah.
If you need him to play wide, he can play wide. Zone, man, whatever you need him to do, he can do it. Not the greatest press coverage guy, right? Like, he's not going to be a big press guy, I don't think. But beyond that, he'll do whatever you ask him to do.
So yeah, I really like Booth, but you do bring up a great point with their edge and being able to get a guy there. Wouldn't have been a bad pick there with Boye there. Keep it going. Number 24, we're getting toward the last bit. This is a hilarious pick for me because this is a Cowboys pick. I'll tell you right now, I got them reaching a bit. But who do you got for Dallas?
I got them taking a slider, actually. You've
Okay.
already taken the guy. It's one of my favorite prospects in this draft, but I think his position, combined with the combination that he's not a great pass rusher, has him falling a little bit. But Jordan Davis has to go here if he's still around.
Okay. Yeah.
Cowboys still need some defensive line help. They got run on really badly by some teams last year. This is a guy who's 6'6", 341 pounds, ran a 4.7 840. Remember when I mentioned that Trevor Penning ran a faster 40 time than 8 starting quarterbacks? Right. That was a 4.82. Jordan Davis outran him. Wow. This is a dude who's 341 pounds. Freakish of freak athletes.
Crazy.
He comes in day one and causes problems for any offensive line up the middle. How do you block him? He doesn't have the highest pass rush upside. This guy's probably only going to get you 3-4 sacks this season. I'll say it right now. The PFF comp is John Henderson. He will produce like Vita Vea, where he won't get to the quarterback much, but good luck running up the middle on him.
Okay.
Right? You're getting nothing there. He's a no doubt day one, put him in the middle and he causes problems guy. Interior linemen tend to not go very high in the draft, so that's why I think he falls a little bit, but he's not falling any further. The Cowboys need run help bad. They're going to take Jordan Davis.
So I have them reaching. I have them reaching a bit for another need. And this might not be a terrible pick. I mean, I think this is just a reach based on where he's kind of slotted. I had them going Tyler Smith out of Tulsa, offensive tackle. So yeah,
I hate that pick.
maybe a mid-second rounder there, maybe a high second rounder. They do need offensive line help. The Cowboys have been
Don Green's right there.
Give me a second. They have a lot of the age is starting to get to that team a little bit, as far as, because it's obviously Cowboys have had a well-known and kind of vaunted offensive line for a bit, but it's getting to them now. Tyler Smith, I saw going. It was a name I was seeing up toward the kind of upper echelon to mid echelon second round grade, and I felt like all the other good ones. Now, I probably missed on a name there. You brought up, who you said Green?
Kenyon Green from Texas A&M.
I don't know how I didn't have that anywhere on my board. So I obviously missed a name. That might be much more likely if he's really graded that much better. But I feel like they go offensive. They go offensive line here. And I saw Tyler Smith as kind of the next potential best available one. But I might have missed on Green there.
Kenyon Green's an interesting one because he kind of moved all over the offensive line. So if you're looking specifically for a tackle, he might not be your guy. The only other name I'd throw out there then is Bernard Raymond from Central Michigan, who is a pure out-and-out tackle who I would probably have above him as well. But, yeah. It would make sense for the Cowboys to reach for a need. And if they are looking purely for an offensive tackle, then you're right. You're either looking at Raymond or you just said his name and it just left my Tyler Smith. So you're not wrong there, right? Where if they're looking purely tackle, that's your guy. But boy, that'd be a hell of a reach by the Cowboys, but it would be a very Cowboys pick. So hey.
Well, we don't have the Raiders here, so I gotta go with a reach somewhere. Let's make it the Cowboys. That might be a little bit. It's a
Cowboys thing to do.
Yeah,
it's a Cowboys thing to do. They reach for needs all the time, so it wouldn't be a terrible surprise. But
I will also admit,
boy, Cowboys Twitter would have fun with that one.
I will also admit, this 24 here, 25 might have been the pick where I had no fucking idea what to do with this one, honestly. Because Buffalo, it's already obviously, I think you have a lot of good, solid players in there. I couldn't really think of anybody specifically who they really lost. So I'll let you go first on this one. But who do you got? Buffalo 25.
This one I had the whole way. Buffalo 25, I think. I would be shocked if he doesn't go sooner, if the Bills don't take him. I think they're taking Trent McDuffie out of Washington, the cornerback. McDuffie's an interesting one where he mocks very weirdly. Some people have him a lot higher, some people have him a lot lower. Not the biggest, and he has he doesn't have the greatest ball playing numbers, but he was an absolute shutdown guy for Washington. And Buffalo likely going to be down Tre'Davious White to start the year. They don't have great depth at cornerback as is. They need a guy who can fill in number one a little bit until Tre'Davious White comes back and then fall back down the depth chart reasonably. I think Trent McDuffie's that guy. He's a guy who comes in day one. He's a high floor guy whose ceiling might not be too much higher, right? He's certainly not the level of the top end cornerbacks that we've mentioned, but Trent McDuffie here absolutely makes sense to me. His PFF comp is Jair Alexander. And he's just a guy who's going to come in and be a strong contributor for the Bills, I think.
Okay. Oh, sorry. What school was he out of?
Washington.
Ah, yes. Okay. I thought I caught that. Making sure. Oddly enough, actually, I'm not too crazy outside of that. I actually went Louis Cine, safety out of Georgia.
Yeah,
secondary help.
Another very fair pick.
Secondary help, I think, is going to be strong. Yeah. Someone who apparently is a not a bad run safety
Yeah.
as well. So I think that's a great need for him. When you think of weird losses that Buffalo had last year, you think of the Jags game, which they lost 6-9. That, probably just some stops and just keeping some first downs out of there. You probably win that game no problem, even though you scored nothing. And then the Patriots game, of course, in which
Yeah.
all they did was run against you. So just kind of like, I don't know, that just kind of popped in my head.
That
And
makes a lot of
I,
sense.
I was very lost on this pick, so I'm happy that we at least landed in the secondary somewhere with one
Yeah,
another. So.
Cine makes a lot of sense to me. Secondary, I think, is almost certainly where they're going, mainly because of the loss of Tre'Davious White, right? And they need somebody to help fill that role until he's ready to come back, because it doesn't sound like he's going to be ready to start the year.
Yeah.
So I went straight cornerback, but Cine makes a lot of sense too, because he's also a guy who's played a little bit of cornerback, so he can spread out there if need be. Yeah, no, I think they're almost certainly going secondary, so I think that's a good pick. Tennessee Titans, they're going wide receiver, by the way. Throwing that out there. I got Jahan Dotson going here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Dotson going here. Dotson is the first of what I'd consider the second tier of wide receivers in this class. And I know that I still have a first tier guy on this board, but again, I wonder how much a playoff team is going to be willing to bring in a guy who is known as a problem, right? And if Wilson does have that tag on him, I don't think the teams at this point are going to be willing to draft him to be a second or third guy on their depth chart at the moment and really kind of throw off what they got going on. The one exception to that would be this pick right here. Because if A.J. Brown does leave and you need a number one guy, that's Garrett Wilson. If A.J. Brown's still there and you don't need a number one guy, you take Jahan Dotson here. They get their choice out of the second tier wide receiver guys. They're going to take Dodson. Only a 2-year starter at Penn State, but only dropped 2 passes last season. 2. Dude's got the safest hands you'll find. Great vision, a great route runner. He's very good at using the space he gets. He can't carry an offense. But they have Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown to do that, right? So with that being said, Dodson's a very nice complement to A.J. Brown. His PFF comp is Kendall Wright. But overall, I just think that makes a lot of sense here. Now, again, the asterisk being, if what I'm hearing about Garrett Wilson is true, and the Titans are going to lose A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson definitely goes here. If what I'm hearing is not true, by the way, Garrett Wilson goes 10 to 15.
So this is very interesting. So you got, Dotson here at 26. So, based on how our quarterbacks fell and everything, I actually have Desmond Ridder going to the Tennessee Titans right here. And the speculation of when is Tannehill getting out is out there now.
We're trying to cast Tannehill out of Tennessee. I love it.
We get a little spicy, a little spicy Tennessee barbecue down there. Desmond Ridder. He is a name that's only really come up probably within the last few weeks, month or so, of being anything even close in the first round, right? I feel
it's been a weird one all year.
I feel like it's been led by Pickett. Sorry. Go for it.
Yeah. No, at the start of the season, he would have been a first-round guy. And then as the season went on, he went anywhere from like first, fourth, third, fifth, second, fifth. Now he's back up to being a first-round guy. But you're right. He's been a bit of a roller coaster the whole season about is he a first-round guy or not. Sorry, go on.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. The only thing I was going to say, for me, it was just like all you're really hearing about for most of the offseason. And granted, it hasn't been, offseason only so long, but it was just the only 2 quarterbacks to even talk about in the first round, Pickett and Willis. That was it. And then it's just only kind of recently you started to hear Desmond Ridder's name come up. And it come up as a good name. Kind of like, I wouldn't say the most ideal situation, because like Tennessee does, as good of a team as they are, and the fact they were the number 1 seed in the AFC, it's the sketchiest number 1 seed coming out of a conference I think you've ever seen.
Very
Really,
weird team.
yeah, right. They didn't feel
Or
like
a
a number 1
one-player
seed.
team.
They were an injured team too. You just wonder what that team's going to be this next season. So very interesting there. I don't think that this isn't an immediate threat to Tannehill by any means, but it's good preservation for the future, and for a team that doesn't have if you get a lot of the same team that you've had out of players that were injured last season, then you're not concerned if you're Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
So you can't really I don't know. I don't feel like you could really jump on anything right there. But you can prepare for the future as best you can. And if you believe in a guy and you like a guy, and apparently Ritter has some Vrabel's son, was his college roommate or teammate or something like that. So there's a little connection there too. You can never really underrate those kind of connections. If Vrabel really likes the guy, he can probably talk his GM into doing so as far as getting the guy. If you don't have a super desperate need, and I'm not too sure what super desperate need Tennessee has right now. So Desmond Ritter, 26, to the Tennessee Titans is what I got. I'll just go right into it. Number 27, I have the guy that you just picked off the board. I have Dotson going to the Bucks. Their question marks at wide receiver right now, what AB is. You want to make Brady happy. You want to get him a weapon. I think from the little bit that I have seen, Dotson is a guy that you could probably put in there and you'd be decently happy with. So just kind of my thinking on that one, going number 27 to the Bucks. Who do you got?
Completely fair. I think the Bucks really have two options here. And unfortunately for what you just said, I don't think either of them are quarterback. I think they either go offensive line to replace Ali Marpet and Alex Kappa, who they lost this offseason.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Or they go defensive line because it looks like they're going to lose Ndamukong Suh.
Yeah.
I got them going defensive line here. I got them taking Devontae Wyatt.
We would have matched. We would have if I had Dotson going. Yeah. Because this was literally the other pick I had. I had Wyatt to him. Absolutely.
Yeah. Offensive line's probably a bit more of a pressing need for them, given that they lost both of their starting guards. But, man, they're not going to pass up on Wyatt, putting him beside Vita Vea. That's going to be an absolutely disgusting defensive line, right? He's got a deadly first step. He can beat most offensive linemen just off of that first step alone. He's 317 pounds. He doesn't play with a ton of power game, but you can pick that up in the NFL, especially when you're playing beside Vita Vea. Doesn't get to the quarterback a lot either, but the Bucks already have a defensive lineman who doesn't get to the quarterback much, and they absolutely adore him. I can't imagine why it's any different. His PFF comp is Larry Ogunjobi. I think he's an absolute stud, and I think the idea of a Buccaneers offensive line that has Wyatt and Vita Vea side by side, or defensive line rather, is just absolutely horrifying to teams that want to run on the Buccaneers.
Yeah. And I'll just jump right into it because we're laddering these picks. I have Wyatt going next to the Green Bay Packers at number 28. Defensive line, Georgia. A big need for Green Bay in the D-line. I think it's a great pick. I think this is right in the wheelhouse of where he lands. Just kind of laddering down Dotson Wyatt. I just have him one pick lower because I have Ritter up a little bit higher. So that just kind of drops it down. Pretty funny in that circumstance. But who do you got? Packers, number 28, their second pick of the round.
So if Wyatt is still on the board, they will absolutely take Devontae Wyatt.
Right.
Devontae Wyatt goes before them, so I think the Packers need to piss off the team after them. They're going to take Kenyon Green, offensive lineman out of Texas A&M, and the Chiefs are going to be livid because they could desperately use offensive line help. But Kenyon Green here, I think, one of the more underrated offensive linemen in this draft. Last season for the Aggies, he played every offensive line position except for center. He played right tackle, right guard, left tackle, left guard. He'll definitely be a day one guard, but the kind of versatility where you've played tackle on both sides in the past doesn't hurt you in any way. through his first 8 games last season, Green had 7 penalties, which might sound like an issue, but you got to remember he's been moving around the line like crazy. When they moved him interior into guard, he only had 1 more penalty in those last 4 games. Offensive line, big need for the Packers. And obviously, you want to keep Rodgers happy. PFF comp on him is Isaiah Wynn.
And yeah, Kenyon Green, like someone who I completely missed on as far as being on my board. Yeah.
I didn't take Garrett Wilson in the first round, dude. Don't worry.
Yeah. So we'll see. Just a little side note. Thank you very much, Scoots, for the raid. Raid of 5. Appreciate that very much, my man. Scoots. Good to see you. As we're coming down to the last 4 picks of the first round here, KC, Kansas City Chiefs with back-to-back picks here, 29 and 30. Let's just go back-to-back. What are you thinking for these 2 picks here?
So, 29, I got them taking Sky Moore, wide receiver out of Western Michigan. Very explosive wide receiver, absolutely jacked. Is actually just learning how to be a wide receiver and is a surprisingly decent route runner for a guy who didn't play wide receiver until he went to Western Michigan. 5'10", 200 pounds. He'll develop into a massive threat for the Chiefs for years to come, and obviously they need some wide receiver help. His PFF comp is Julian Edelman. And if we're just going back-to-back, my number 30 is Nakobe Dean here. The Chiefs, they need offensive line, obviously, but that got taken, so they'll just take the best talent left on the board, and that's Nakobe Dean. A little bit undersized as a linebacker, but a PFF comp of Devin Bush, and for good reason. He's kind of an all-around guy, and as competitive as you'll ever see in a player. So those are my 2 picks, Sky Moore and Nakobe Dean.
I like the Dean getting in there. I couldn't figure out, and I'll just kind of ruin it. You got the reset. Thank you very much. I had Dean kind of floating around there. I just couldn't fit where to put him in. He probably wouldn't be a bad spot here. For my 2 picks, I actually have Boya Maffey going edge out of Minnesota. And I have, actually, for wide receiver, I have George Pickens out of Georgia going instead of Sky Moore here.
We'll talk about George Pickens when I talk about the teams that don't draft in the first round.
All right. So, so both have a wide receiver. Both have some defensive help for KC here. Just kind of flipped on those 2. You could do either or, obviously, because they have back-to-back picks here. Yeah. It's not like they could beat themselves on that one. But, yeah. Maffey and Pickens on my part. Number 31, our AFC champion, Super Bowl runner-up, Cincinnati Bengals. Who do you got?
So I mentioned when I talked about Zion Johnson that I think he may be the best interior offensive lineman in this class, but I think there's another. I think at 31, the Bengals are going to take Tyler Linderbaum, center out of Iowa, who is so far and away the best center in this draft class, it's not even funny. They have gotten a couple of guards this offseason. They're going to tackle this offseason. They're going to add a new elite center to finish off that offensive line rebuild they've done and be just a scary team for years to come. He's the best athlete on offensive line in this class. He's actually, he was a wrestler at Iowa too. So his hands are ridiculous. Like, if you watch his hand fighting, it's crazy how many guys he beats just purely by fighting off hands and not needing to hold anybody. He's not massive, and he can play guard, but you'll want to play him on center. And preferably somewhere where you can use his athleticism, a place that's going to want to slide protections, a place that's going to want to get some movement going on. Hey, that's Cincinnati, baby! They're going to want to be sliding the pocket a little bit. His PFF comp is a bigger Jason Kelsey. This guy is an absolute freak of a
Okay.
If Zion Johnson's not the best interior offensive lineman in this class, Tyler Linderbaum is.
Let's see. Is it Linderbaum?
Linderbaum. Linderbaum.
All right. I had Lindenbaum. There we go. I'm going depth piece here for the Bengals because I feel like they have a lot of things here. I don't think they need to go with this first pick. They need to stretch too much. I like Kyer Elam out of Florida, cornerback. I don't think cornerback's a super desperate need. I know obviously Eli Apple got, shit on for whatever mistakes he made and talking, but I mean, obviously he showed up for some clutch plays as well. I like a lot of their pieces. Obviously, offensive line, I should say, offensive tackle, part of it, I suppose, but offensive line, they've addressed their free agency, so I don't think there's any need to go young there necessarily if you don't want to. Obviously, it wouldn't be a terrible idea either to do someone like a Tyler Linderbaum. Definitely not a bad pick at all. But I felt like, secondary wouldn't be a bad choice for him. Just kind of took a look at some boards and saw a name that was coming up a little often. So that's why he slotted in there for me. No real reason maybe outside of that. Just nice depth piece and for a position that they could probably use a little help.
32 is where we get very interesting for me. Very interesting.
This is a fun one.
This is a funky one. So hear me out. I think the Lions should probably go safety here, or take Garrett Wilson if he's still around, because they could still use a decent wide receiver out there to help them.
Yeah.
But if you remember at pick 2, I took Ike Ekwonu for them because I love his run blocking ability.
Yes.
Because I think the Lions are going to try to establish an identity. They're going to be a tough running team, a hard team to play against. It really fits with MCDC. Why not take a Studley dual threat quarterback here at 32 and grab Matt Corral out of Ole Miss, baby?
Let's go, Matt Corral, 32 to the Detroit Lions. You heard it here first, folks. We both got him. We both got him. Matt Corral to the fucking Lions. Let's go. I love it. I love the pick.
Corral is such an interesting fit for the Lions because he ran a majority RPO offense out of Ole Miss. You want to get DeAndre Swift the ball a lot. You want a quarterback who's going to be able to run the ball a lot. Matt Corral fits this lineup to a T. And if you can really get like this strong, hard-nosed running team identity around the Lions in a weakened NFC, this team could be hard to play against. I really love them taking Matt Corral here. His PFF comp, by the way, is Jim McMahon.
Oh, wow. Wow, they went to the well on that one. I love it. Holy shit.
Yeah, no, Pickett is Sam Darnold, but Matt Corral, Jim McMahon, baby.
Motherfucker, you weren't alive when whoever wrote up that shit. No, that's great. I love that we lined up on Matt Corral at pick 32. I saw it, and I'm just like, yeah, you're not going to keep going with the Goff experiment forever.
No.
You're tired of probably paying this, and you're looking for the next move. I like Matt Corral there. I love the pick. 32.
It's either Corral or Sam Howell, right? Like, that's the thing there, right? But I just kind of love the RPO idea and them turning into this hard-nosed running team that's going to try to beat you running the ball while having this quarterback who can run some RPO and really open up the game that way and kind of force teams to think about it. I think Corral fits that really well. I think it just works for them.
And so we'll go to it right now. Let me zoom this in a little bit for you folks. So we'll look at the side-by-side. That's our 32 picks there in the first round. On the right side in the blue, we have Craig. In the left side in the red, we have myself. Oddly enough, we do not match up anywhere in the top 10. But all of a sudden, pick 11, we both have Kyle Hamilton going to the Washington Commies. Pick 13, we have the Houston Texans picking up Charles Cross. Pick 17, we have Trevor Penning going to the San Diego Chargers. Pick 22, we both have Treylon Burks going to the Green Bay Packers. And pick 32, we have Matt Corral going to the Detroit Lions. We line up on, I'm amazed we line up on 5 picks here. With this much of a shenanigans draft, that is pretty amazing. We'll scroll down. Some of my to be mentions that I just couldn't fit in. Logan Hall, defensive lineman out of Houston. Christian Watson, wide receiver out of North Dakota State. There's a little bit of a homer pick in that too because Watson would be an interesting pickup for the Niners if they somehow were able to land the kid. Obviously, Trey Lance connection there. Quay Walker, I mentioned earlier, linebacker out of Georgia, along with Nakobe Dean, who I didn't have in my picks here, going linebacker out of Georgia there. Kyler Gordon, cornerback out of Washington, I had as an interesting one. And David Ojabo, edge out of Michigan. As guys that could easily be in here in the mix. I just didn't have them falling exactly to any of these teams for as little knowledge as I have on the situation. So
I will say another couple of names to look out for. I do have a list of the teams without a first round pick, by the way, and I'll go through those ones in a second.
Absolutely.
As to who I think they'll take there, is Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker III. They're the only two real needle moving running backs in this class. And if there's a team who really feels a need to get a potentially needle-moving running back, that could be a way to sneak one of them into the first round or even very early second round. Breece Hall in particular, I think, is a real potential difference maker at running back. I really like Breece Hall a lot. But Kenneth Walker III also from Michigan State, no joke there either. Yeah. So teams without first round picks. There's 8 of them if I counted correctly.
Yeah, there's 8 of them.
So the Bears are the first one up at 39. This is where I have George Pickens going. We mentioned him a little bit earlier. Again, by this point, Garrett Wilson's off the board. So it's not even a question. If he does get out of the first round, he literally goes first pick of the second round to the Jaguars. Pickens, when he was healthy, was an absolute dominant force in this class. Couldn't stay healthy. He was targeted 139 times in his college career, though, and dropped 2 of them. He has the safest hands in this class. 6'3", very good catch radius. He's the steal of this draft if he can stay healthy. PFF comp for him, Kenny Golladay. At 42 for the Colts, we talked about him when Tap was talking about his Cowboys reach. I got them taking Bernard Raymond, the tackle out of Central Michigan. He started his college career as a tight end, and the last couple of seasons started playing tackle for Central Michigan, kind of out of desperation. They had trouble finding tackles in their recruiting classes. In his 2 years as a left tackle for Central Michigan, he gave up 1 sack.
Wait, he moved from receiver to tackle?
Tight end
To tackle.
Yeah. Which could also be fun for some gadget shenanigans. Just throwing that one out there. He took to the position just incredibly quickly. He'll need to put on another 20 or so pounds at the NFL level to be a tackle, but once he does that, that's a real force for the Colts. His PFF comp, by the way, Lane Johnson. This dude is thought of very highly coming into this class. The Browns at 44, I figure the Browns are going to go wide receiver here. Get somebody to complement what they already have. And that's going to be Alec Pierce out of Cincy. Since the combine, Alec Pierce, no wide receivers seen their stock go higher. He ran a 4.4 140. Which I hear surprised some people, but watching a lot of Cincinnati games, I don't know how. This dude's as vertical a vertical threat as you've ever seen. You couple him with Amari Cooper, right? And he's gonna be a great 1-2 with him. His college stats don't blow your mind, but interestingly enough, his best games this season were against their stiffest competition. He had a great game against Notre Dame, had a great game against Houston, had a great game against SMU, which were their 3 toughest games this season. He's this great combination of ridiculous combine performance and disappointing stats, which leads to some people thinking he's either a ridiculous reach or the greatest prospect they've ever seen. But I just think this kind of makes sense to the Browns here. His PFF comp is he's a bigger Emmanuel Hall. The next team that doesn't have a pick in the first round is the 49ers, picking at 61. I could have gone a few different ways here, but I had them taking Nick Bonito, edge rusher out of Oklahoma. They do need some edge rush help badly with D Ford leaving. I feel like Nick Bonito is a really great guy who you can have, who can take a little bit of time to develop with Bosa already being there. He's a little bit smaller, just 248 pounds, but he is 6'3", so he could put on a little bit of weight and still keep his frame relatively well. He does border on too small to be a pass rusher, but he also had 8 sacks in back-to-back seasons for Oklahoma. So again, playing a stiff competition, back-to-back 8-sack seasons. He's got a great speed rush arsenal. He could be a real menace as an opposite to Bosa, where they play kind of contrasting games that works really well, and it makes it really hard to scheme against, right? We know that the Niners love having multiple people who can get to the quarterback, and I think Nick Bonito just fits their scheme really well. PFF comp for him is Hassan Reddick. To the Vegas Raiders at 86, I have Dylan Parham, a guard from Memphis, going here.
What? Hold a second. Do the Browns not have 64?
I had the Browns picking at 44.
Oh, wait. Sorry. I don't know why I have Browns listed twice then. My mistake. Okay.
Yeah, 86, the Raiders. I got them taking Dylan Parham. Parham's a very flexible guard. Can play center or tackle if need be, although he's a little bit on the small side for an NFL tackle. But he's an athlete. He's an athlete first and foremost. He'll adopt to the pace of the NFL game. He does need to put on a bit of weight, but when he does, he could turn into a real stud at guard. The only thing that holds him from going higher in this is that this is already a very good offensive line class, and he kind of looks not as good compared to the rest of the class, but he's going to be a good starter in the NFL. His PFF comp is Weston Richburg. Broncos fans are going to hate me for this pick. Broncos are next at 96, and they are going to hate me for what I'm about to do to their team. Because I got them picking Brian Robinson, a running back out of Alabama. Now, hear me out. The Broncos have a couple pretty good speed running backs there already, but they have no power game to complement that speed game. Brian Robinson's a very no-nonsense style runner. He gets the ball, he's going to gain 3 yards, 4 yards. He's not going to gain 30, he's going to gain 3 or 4. Okay? And also, he's not going to lose 2. He's going to gain 3 or 4. He would have gone a little bit higher in this class, or even gone in last year's class, if he wasn't stuck behind Najee Harris for his entire time at Alabama. Last year had a very good year, was a guy who the more touches he got in a game, got further into it, his touches would get better. I don't see him being a guy who can get a lot of touches at the NFL level, but I think he can adapt really well to being a power back in the NFL. His PFF comp is Carlos Williams, which seems really harsh on him, but trust me, I like him. Dolphins at 102.
So
I got that.
Interesting thing. So do the Broncos not have 64? Because that's the team I forgot. I put the Browns there, but I think the Broncos have 64.
Do the Broncos have 64?
So that's why I had that flipped. And I had the Broncos slotted before the Raiders actually on their pick.
They do have 64.
So that would truly be their
I'll tell you what. Assuming they since they have 64, they'll still take Robinson at 96. At 64, they'll take Isaiah Likely, the tight end from Coastal Carolina.
Ooh, okay. I like that.
They could use some tight end help. Isaiah Likely is a very, very good tight end. In a tight end class that's underrated, it's got some good players that are not first-round talents. Isaiah Likely really fits that second-round bill for them. That's who they'll take at 64.
All right, let's slot that in.
Actually, give me a second. I'm curious about some tight ends. Likely's PFF comp is Robert Tunyon. Throwing that out there.
Tight end out of where?
Coastal Carolina. Okay, so now next should be the Dolphins at 102, right? I didn't screw that one up,
Yes.
did I? Yeah,
Yes,
okay,
you're
good.
slotted.
Dolphins at 102 are going to take Marcus Jones, cornerback out of Houston. Uh, he's a 5'8 corner, which is the reason he slides this far. But he's never. I don't think I've ever seen Marcus Jones beaten off the line. He's got some of the craziest hip movement you'll ever see. He'll stay with any wide receiver in the game. He plays a very physical style and is a shockingly good tackler. You see this a lot with smaller guys in positions. They tend to be pit bulls, right? They'll stay with you. They're hungrier than you. They'll fight harder than you. It's kind of what Marcus Jones is. On top of that, Marcus Jones might have been the best kick returner in NCAA over the past couple seasons. And I don't think the Dolphins are going to say no to that at this point. You get a cornerback who can probably play some corner for you day one, but will also be a good kick returner for you day one. I don't think they're going to say no to that. PFF comp for him, by the way, Darius Phillips. And this is my favorite pick. The Rams at pick 104.
Yeah. First pick is 104.
104 is their first pick. And I think the Rams end up getting the steal of the draft at 104. They get a guy who steps in day one and immediately helps their team. They're going to take the Marvin Leal, edge rusher out of Texas A&M. This is a guy who was a 5-star recruit going into Texas A&M. And just never quite hit the heights that was expected of him at College Station. He's a little bit on the slender side, but this guy's got some freak pass rushing ability, man. He's a natural pass rusher. I think you put him in a system that can help mold him a little bit. I think DeMarvin Leal is going to really shine out of this class. I think they're going to look past his numbers and see the potential there and go at 104. We're not going to find a better player than this. And they're going to take him despite the not so great production in Texas A&M. And I think it's going to pay off big time for him. His PFF comp, more explosive Jihad Ward.
Okay. So, to sum that up, and might as well pop that over to the other side. Got these listed down here. Actually, I'll need to get that name. We'll just go through it. So, 39 to the Bears. That's where you have George Pickens going. 42 Colts. You got Bernard Raymond. 44 the Browns. Alex Pierce. 61 the Niners. Nick Benito. 64 the Broncos, Isaiah Likely, as well as 96 the Broncos, Brian Robinson, a little extra bonus pick in there.
Bonus pick.
Full name of the guy you have, the Raiders at 86. I didn't.
Dylan Parham, Parham, out of Memphis.
Memphis. Thank you. I probably butchered. That's not the only name I probably butchered. Dolphins, Marcus Jones. I guess I couldn't have mentioned that one. Marcus Jones, cornerback out of Houston. And 104 Rams, DeMarvin Leal, defensive line out of Texas A&M. There we go. And that is everybody's picks. Even all those goddamn, like a third round first picks for the Dolphins and the Rams there. Broncos.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, Raiders. That's
Raiders.
A third round pick. So yeah, actually, 4 of those being they don't pick till the damn third round, but that's how they're gonna operate. This is kind of the new NFL right here. As far as not so much concern about these draft picks, get guys now and plug them in. But yeah, be very interesting if a guy that you pick out 104. Is really the plug and play like that for them. So very nice. And yeah, there we go. That is our coverage there of the first round plus some bonus picks for you there. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
The interesting thing I think going forward, as far as obviously we were talking before. The potential for trades, a lot of these guys to move up and down, really mixes up, obviously, the needs for the teams that do move up, move down, whatever. So, obviously, this is going to be a little hard to settle in, but I think there's definitely some ones. Like, obviously, you talk about some of those top players, no matter who gets up there, the guys like a Nathan Hutchinson,
Yeah.
a Sauce Gardner, a Thibodeau, Ekwonu, guaranteed top tens, no matter how that all shakes up. But I think some very interesting picks. I think we crossed paths or just were one pick away in quite a few situations here, and then for us to land evenly on 5 picks in outside the top 10 picks is actually kind of amazing.
I'm shocked we landed Matt Corral. I thought I was going out of nowhere with Matt Corral.
I mean, like, I don't think it's not a crazy stretch, and the fact that the Lions have 2 picks, they're top and bottom, essentially top and bottom on this draft, and if they get Aiden Hutchinson, I don't think they could do any wrong with pick number 32. No, like, Lions, everybody will be so in love with that Hutchinson pick, they give a shit what happens at 32, so why not go with a guy like Matt Corral? It's very fun. Anything else you want to hit on as far as the draft coming up? You did a lot of heavy lifting as far as some great research there, bringing some real knowledge to these these players that I don't know half the damn kids on this list at least. Probably well more than that actually, but looking forward to it. Draft night, it's a fucking event. We'll be enjoying it ourselves. I'll probably be watching maybe the McAfee Draft Spectacular, or just kind of watching some stuff on the side myself, trying to keep up. So should be fun tomorrow. But anything else you want to hit on as far as the upcoming draft here?
I don't have something else draft-wise, but I do have one outside of draft sports topic to hit on, and that is that this Saturday, we have a boxing match that I have been excited for months. And you've heard me mention this boxing match before.
Serrano, baby.
Because I mentioned it when we were talking about the last Jake Paul fight.
Yeah.
Amanda Serrano was fighting on the undercard, and I said the best thing that could happen to women's boxing is Serrano wins that fight, and you get Serrano and Katie Taylor. Well, this Saturday, that fight's going down. And let me tell you something, I could not be more excited for it. Yeah. This fight, hopefully, it should do for women's boxing what Ronda Rousey did for women's MMA. Like, it should be at that level. If they can promote this thing right, if they can get it out to enough eyes. Because let me tell you something. These two can fucking go. This is a super fight. As far as women's boxing goes, this is the peak. Katie Taylor, 20-0. Amanda Serrano, 44-1-1. These two women are untouchable at the moment. I will say, quick handicapping note. Katie Taylor, 20 wins, only 6 of them by knockout. Serrano, 44 wins, 30 of them by knockout. Serrano, if this fight's going to be finished, it's going to be finished by Serrano. But regardless of all that, if you're a boxing fan out there, go and watch this thing, because it's going to be awesome. And women's boxing deserves this fight. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up. I actually kind of spaced on that one. And when you really think about it, with the Fury last weekend, Serrano this next weekend, like, probably the biggest names in real professional boxers that are out there right now, back-to-back weekends. This is the biggest 2 weeks in boxing that's been for a long time. So this is going to be awesome. That's definitely a fight to check out. Absolutely. I mean, if you didn't see the last fight that Serrano was in, I can't remember her opponent, but good God, I super kudos to her opponent. She stood in there like a fucking champ, and just took one of the most brutal beatings I've ever seen for a fight that didn't go to, it wasn't a knockout.
Yeah.
What a fucking fight that was. So, if you haven't seen that one, check that one out. You'll kind of get an idea of what Serrano has in store this weekend, potentially, for sure.
So that fight's the very interesting one, because that fight was against Miriam Gutierrez, who is 14-2 now. Her other loss was 2 fights before that to Katie Taylor.
There you go.
And again, very interesting to see the dynamic of the two. Serrano pummeled Gutierrez. The fact that Gutierrez didn't get knocked out, it speaks way more to
Yeah.
Gutierrez than it does to Serrano. She hung in there. Katie Taylor is a very different fighter, though. If you watch that Katie Taylor Miriam Gutierrez fight, Katie Taylor just picks her apart, pieces her up, piece, jab, 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 keeping her outside. She comes inside. She's got a really nice hook. She's got a really nice lead uppercut. She's gonna piece you up and pick you apart and pick you apart. And her knockout wins don't come from being a big puncher like Serrano does. It comes from breaking you. She'll just break you over time. That's her game. And it's going to be really... styles make fights. It's the old cliche, but it still rings true. And this is one of those great stylistic matches where you have the power puncher in Serrano versus the technique piece you up person in Taylor. And even if Katie Taylor wins rounds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, doesn't matter. Serrano can turn this thing on a dime. Right? And that's the intrigue of this fight, is that Katie Taylor could be up 8 rounds to nothing and still lose this fight. Because she could get... It's one punch from Serrano and you're done.
I'm definitely going to be looking forward to that one. If you haven't seen a Serrano fight, hop on the train and check it out this weekend. That's gonna be a good one. Hit on it lightly because we got some stuff going on right now. And we are a sports show, so we should cover everything. NBA playoffs, obviously, in full swing. We've already had some teams eliminated in the first official round. We got Nuggets Warriors going down right now, almost getting to the latter part there of the third. Denver actually up 1. Down 3-1 in the series, but mixing's a little spicy if they end up taking this one. Nuggets are not anything to be looked down upon, if you start getting that team going. Obviously, we got playoff hockey coming right up around the corner. Your Oilers not looking too shabby out there.
Oh, we're looking pretty good. I'm still worried about our goaltending situation, though.
Right.
I'm not confident in Mike Smith.
Just need to get hot. But yeah, it's Mike Smith, though. Fuck.
That being said, we got LA in the first round, who I think is probably the weakest playoff team in the NHL. Mean no disrespect to the Kings by that, but I don't think
the fuck out of the Kings. I'm down.
I don't think they're quite ready to be at that situation yet. They got a lot of good, talented young players, guys like Byfield and stuff like that, who I just don't think are ready to fill out a playoff roster yet. So I think they'll make it past the first round, and I think that probably means we'll get an Oilers-Flames second round. And if you guys haven't seen an Oilers-Flames game in the past,
let's go.
Shit goes hard. Last season, there was an Oilers-Flames game that ended with a line brawl, including a goalie fight.
Yeah, that's gonna be phenomenal. Let's goalie. Yeah, let's do it like fucking game 3, tied game, tensions high.
Yeah.
Late in the third, goalie fight. Let's go.
I wonder, because last year was Cam Talbot, and Talbot's a tough son of a bitch. He'll do it. I wonder how willing Jacob Markstrom would be to drop the gloves with Mike Smith, who, if you guys don't know, Mike Smith is a black belt in karate, has 20 years of Muay Thai kickboxing experience, is a purple belt in jiu-jitsu.
Oh, wow.
The dude is literally top 5 toughest people in the NHL. Like,
That's
if
awesome.
you were to make a list of guys you don't want to fuck with in the NHL, Mike Smith would be right near the top.
I love it.
So,
all right.
Don't know how willing Markstrom would be to drop the gloves with him. But yeah, no, NHL playoffs is going to be fun.
Yeah, of course.
There's a lot of teams that are going to be interesting watches, obviously. Will the Toronto Maple Leafs finally win a fucking series, despite looking like one of the best teams in the NHL for the last 3-4 seasons now? That's a question. Yeah. The Metropolitans, an absolute murderer's row. Who survives that? Which team will outlast the others in the West? I think Calgary and Colorado are probably your favorites, but don't look past Minnesota.
Yeah, we talked about the Wild before. This is like a month or so back, but don't sleep on the Wild. Obviously, Blues.
Yeah, they've done it. They've done it in recent memory. A lot of those players on that team have lifted a cup in a St. Louis shirt before, so you can't count that out either. The storylines are very interesting, I think. I'll throw out a soft prediction right now. I think your cup final is going to be the Wild and the the Wild and the Lightning, and I think the Lightning are going to three-peat.
Wow. Wow, really? Okay.
I
Just
the the thing that people who don't watch NHL a lot don't know about the NHL playoffs is your goalie will win you the playoffs.
sure. A hot goalie
Tampa
is the
Bay,
biggest thing ever. I've seen
yeah,
it. I've
yeah,
been
Tampa Bay
witness.
right now has the best goalie in the NHL, bar none, in Andrei Vasilevsky.
Okay.
I don't see Vasilevsky all of a sudden not turning up in the playoffs, right? Like, it's not like he doesn't have experience doing it. If a team in the East is going to knock them out, it might be the New York Rangers, which sounds surprising given the fact that I didn't even have them as a playoff team at the start of the season. But they've got a rookie goalie who is a fucking difference maker, man. In Shesterkin, who honestly, if it were up to me, would win the MVP.
I mean,
I think what he's
I I agree with absolutely the hot goalie thing. The thing is, the Carolina team, they have let less than 200 goals this season. Nobody reaches that. Nobody's even like well, actually the Rangers are kind of close to that. But the fact that they still are that good, they have a 73 differential. Granted, Florida even has a bigger one, but they've let in quite a few more. They've had to score a few more.
Yeah.
Carolina seems like a incredibly strong defensive team.
My worry with the Hurricanes, and this could be unfounded because it could be residual Leaf stuff. Frederik Andersen has never played well in the playoffs. He's never played well in the playoffs. He's always a guy who's going to let in a couple really bad goals for your team when you don't need it, and it's going to cost you a series. Now, is that Frederik Andersen or is that residual Leaf stuff? We're going to find out. If it's residual Leaf stuff, watch out for the fucking Hurricanes. If it's Frederik Andersen stuff, the Hurricanes could be one of those teams that could be looking to get upset.
Fair enough. And yeah, actually, just kind of take a look. Kind of speaking to your point earlier about the Kings potentially being one of those the weakest of the playoff teams right there. Going into the third, tied up with the Kraken right now at 3-3. Ooh, that's a tough look unless you really pull out in the third right here. You make it look a little bit more abysmal than that. But to be tied against the Kraken right now and you're kind of going into the home stretch, tough look. We'll see.
The Kings get the benefit of playing in the Pacific, which to me is the weakest division in the NHL, right? I think there's two really good teams. No, there's one really good team in it, one fairly decent team in it in the Oilers, and everybody else is just kind of middling to bad.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that as much as I don't like the Vegas Golden Knights, the fact that they're sitting there at 92 points and out of the playoff picture right now, which I love because the Sharks have been ruining their chances with some games lately.
Well, they're officially out, I think, right?
Are they officially completely out?
Yeah, they can't catch Nashville and Dallas anymore. The most they can end.
Oh, Nashville has 95. I did not see that Nashville had 95. Some of it.
Yeah, they can't catch Nashville and Dallas anymore. Your playoff teams are set. Positioning can still be decided a little bit between the Stars and Predators. But
92 points
are set.
That's crazy though. Like that kind of shows, there's definitely a big gray area in the West. A lot of those teams floating in that area, and the fact that 92 points didn't get Vegas into a spot there is a little telling. That would usually, I would say, most seasons get you the 8th at least. 90s, like usually low 90s get you there.
It can. If you look at the East, you needed 100 points to make the playoffs this year. So
true. It falls completely off from that though. Like, yeah, but I agree.
It is worth noting, especially in the Atlantic Division. The Atlantic Division, in my opinion, had 4 of the 5 worst teams in the NHL. In the Sabres, Red Wings, Senators, and Canadiens, who are only better than a lot of teams points-wise because they played each other. Right? Like, that is worth noting. The division you play in tells a lot. You see a lot of these Atlantic teams with like 120 points and 113 points. You go, wow, they must be so much better than the Metro teams. No, the Metro is full of murderers. And making it out of the Metro means that you are battle-tested. In the Atlantic, you played a lot of really poor teams 8 times this year. And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays come playoff time.
I think so. But yeah, coming up, I mean, yeah, NHL playoffs, always fun to watch. If you haven't been wanting to check out hockey too much, give it a look. Sometimes it's a little hard to follow on TV, but it's always a lot of energy, always a good time. And I mean, you see upsets in every sport. I think hockey is one of those ones, as kind of Craig's point earlier. You just need that hot goalie. You need a little offense. Man. You need a couple lines to be able to perform, and all of a sudden, 8 takeout ones, 7 takeout twos all the time.
Like, I'm being honest with you, ain't nobody want to play the Nashville Predators come the first round of the playoff.
Yeah. Hot teams, it's scary.
You see Saros back there, one of the better, more underrated goaltenders in the NHL. He gets hot in that series, and ain't nobody want to play him.
Yeah, there we go. That's going to be, good coverage right there of some of the stuff coming up we got in the sports world. Obviously, draft tomorrow, so be looking at that. Anything else you want to hit on before we ended this session?
I believe I am good.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for hanging out with us. We did get some nice little channel raids there. If you do want to check out the Sports Clichés podcast, you can catch us on YouTube. Just look up Sports Clichés. You'll find us there. We're also going to, as we start getting more into the NFL season, I'm sure we'll get back into the groove of things, start getting those weekly podcasts going for you again. We'll get some sporadic ones going here, I'm sure, while the playoffs are going on. I definitely want to do some NHL stuff as we're going through that. So check that out. But this has been episode 20. Finally, there we go. Episode 20 of the podcast here of Sports Clichés. I'm Tapatio J. I've been joined by Craig Christ, 7. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope you all have a great evening. Catch a draft and catch an awesome fight this weekend. Some playoff hockey, playoff basketball. Not too bad. See you then. All right, y'all.